Good evening, all. Welcome to this week's Midweek Geek. I'm currently sat here, just me and Bear. It's very cozy, isn't it, Bear?
It's very cozy.
Very
Don't
cozy.
get any ideas.
Yeah. No. Which does mean there are some open seats here. A few regulars are unable to join us tonight. But if you want to talk about rule books and learning new rules and what they should and shouldn't do in their rule books, then pop in. By all means,
Yeah.
the link is in the usual place.
Yeah, we need Sax here to keep us online and on target.
Well, we do, but he's lurking in chat. In chat we have Manfred, we have Brian, and there's Saxius in chat. Who's is this a New Year's resolution, Saxius, to do a workout? We're mid January, so I suppose that's still New Year's resolution territory. You also need to find government rules for the new customs policies after you're done training. Oh, that's gonna be fun. Oh yeah, great. Huh. I wonder if your rule books are well laid out for those government rules. I bet they're not.
I bet they're very utilitarian.
Yeah. But lots of long words though.
Like utilitarian.
Yeah. And lots of, please refer to chapter 2C and 3B appendix A.
I'm simulcasting this to my channel as one of my channels as well, the GNX GM channel. But any of you guys, you'll find the link for this video in the description if you want to pop over here and be part of the Ye Olde Geeks live chat.
Absolutely. No Saurians in chat, Halakar's in chat. We've got Mr.
Hungar.
Baker. Is Hungar about? Jim Cody's there.
Yeah, Hungar's in my stream. Manfred's here. King Eric's here. Ace of Spades. Curtis. R.W. Bishop.
King Eric, yeah.
Andy Kinson, who you were just telling me about.
I was just telling you about our game last night, Andy. Don't worry, it was all positive. We had a nice little bit of role play last night. RW.
Which person was it in? Was it in first person or second person?
I was entirely first person.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, indeed. Curtis Hungar, Ace of Spades, Nerd's Nerd, Full Metal Dragon, King Eric. Right, there we go. Lots of interesting people. As I say, the link is in the usual place on the Discord. If anyone would like to come in and talk rule books, you are more than welcome. Yes, Harold is still running, screaming from the train. Well, no, he's in hospital. He's in hospital trying to make phone calls and getting confused.
Didn't he wake up or something and he's not actually on the train or something? Iman stopped by last night and was telling me a little bit about it.
Oh, yes, because time in the spirit world moves at a different speed, does it not?
Of course it does.
Yes. So he woke up in hospital yesterday. Because apparently at one point when he was on the train, it was 1911, but the current date is 1923. It's all over the place. Poor Harold. What he had to go through with those human guts and a warm-ish human heart, and cannibals and all sorts. Yes, it was lovely. It was very juicy. Who else? Jeans turned up as well. Hungar, your show turned stupid most of the time.
Oh no, it was extra today, man. I caught like the last 10 minutes, and it was like, oh boy.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. Well, I'll have to catch up on that. I was cooking. I was put on cooking duty tonight as soon as I got home from work, so I'm afraid I missed out on all shows. But I had very nice smoky bacon pasta bake, which I made myself. It's lovely.
Nice.
Hello, Mercurius. Hello. Right, Bear. Have we had any games recently?
Nothing that comes to mind.
No, I can't think of any either.
No, nothing that pops to mind. Nothing that, seemingly has sent the cockwomble into tizzy fits of us all sucking somehow.
Yeah. 1,100 views, was it? That was yesterday.
Last count across all 5 channels, yeah.
1,100 views?
No, 5 channels, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly,
That's
I
not too bad.
haven't seen any negative feedback. I haven't seen anybody complaining. Most people have been telling me, like, even in PMs, telling me what a great job it was. Now they were impressed with everybody.
Mm.
But apparently,
Yeah.
we're just not up to snuff, buddy. We don't role play the hard way.
Oh no, we don't. No,
No.
we do. We will play the fun way, though, don't we?
What? No, there's no
Whoa.
crying in baseball.
But that was a really good game. That was thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Everybody who took part, Hungar took part, Cody took part. Then there was Iman and Malaki and Max. Everybody just did their bit, didn't they? They all did
Well,
their bit.
let me put it this way: it was so good that I now had a bunch of people wanting to play in the other game I'm going to be running on alternate Fridays. They're like, "Hey, is there a room in your game?" Sorry, we're full up. But so clearly it looked like a good time for those who watched it, which I guess is, all I need, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'll have to live without the stamp of approval from the cockwomble. Oh well.
Oh well, indeed. Oh well. Is there crying in cricket? What are we on about there? What are we on about there?
Well, it is a big girl's blouse of a sport, so why not?
Oh, is it? Is it? That ball heading towards your chops at 80 odd miles an hour. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So, lots of people being positive. I haven't caught up on Elfbait's live stream one yet. I saw a bit of it live.
Me too, yeah.
My plan is to watch it on Thursday at work, tomorrow at work.
It was good. What I saw was good, and the feedback is really good on it. I love Cody's voiceover intro for it. Was really good too. So
I saw about 45 minutes of it before I had to go to bed because he streamed.
He saw more than me.
I'll be watching. The rest of it tomorrow. Cricket, isn't that a game they play outside when we're drinking at the bar? Yes. Yeah. Why not? Cricket is a good excuse for drinking. It's a great excuse for drinking during the summer months. So, no, Manfred. We have to poke the womble. I was going to say poke the cock. We have to poke the womble, I think is a better way of it.
Well, the womble insists on using my real name now all the time. So I'm just going to continue to ignore the womble by referring to it as the cock womble, which is what it truly is, until it gets either gets the taste for me out of its mouth, or I figure out a way to take some action against it through YouTube.
Yeah. Right. Any other games other than the big one there?
This week, Friday night, we're going to be playing Star Trek Paradise Station on my channel. And then Saturday, I have my in-face, in-person Palladium game with my buddies. And then Monday, I'm back. Oh, wait, the 25th. Tomorrow night, I have a game, actually. Oh, I forgot about that. Tomorrow night, we're having a makeup game for the Monday I was sick. This Monday, the Monday before. And then that's going to be the last game of Star Trek Sojourner for a while, as one of the players is going on vacation for 3 months to Europe with his wife. So we're going to take a little pause. I'm going to run something else for them. Or maybe I'll just take Mondays off. I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. Shall we say? Yeah. I played in Gene's OSC game on Saturday afternoon before your game in the evening.
Oh, yes.
And my paladin in that game, I was playing a paladin in that game, the knight in your game, and my paladin's just gained level 2 in that. Wow.
Then we like seeing a player level up.
It's not very often, not very common.
Not in your games, I know. So it must be interesting for you to see it in someone else's game, right?
It's only Sean who doesn't level up very often. He just misses all the sessions with Juicy XP. Everybody else has done all right. And then we played on Monday. The face-to-face group got together, and we had a form of the Olympic Games, fantasy style, which was mildly amusing. And then we played some Call of Cthulhu last night, and 2 characters died. Last time I ran horror on the Orient Express, no characters had died by this point, but in this group, 2 characters died because they split the party.
Oh, there it is. It arrived. Look what's here. She's arrived.
So, They split the party last night, and 2 people decided to go on the train. 2 people decided not to go on the train, which meant they didn't have enough people on the train to deal with the zombies. And actions have consequences, as they say. Yeah. So 2 players are rolling up new characters for the next session.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, yes. Right. Shall we get on to topic? We'll get on to rule books. Why, Bear, answer this question for me. Why is it nerds are generally abysmal at writing rule books?
Are they? Are they particularly renowned for being abysmal at writing rule books?
Well, there's plenty of uber nerds and some of these great, especially in the 80s, 70s and 80s. Why can they not format the books? Why can they not explain rules in a manner that makes them easily digestible? Right. Quick question. What do you want to see from a rule book? When you get a new rule book, what's the first thing you look for?
Honestly, if they put any bloody fiction in it. Hey, Hungar, what's up, man? I can't stand when there's fiction in a role-playing book. It drives me sideways every time.
So you look for a lack of fiction, but what do you actually look for?
Layout's going to be the first thing that catches my eye, how easy it is to read. I have a huge problem with the design imperative books, Mithras, Classic Panties, because the font they use is really hard on my eyes. So that's something I pay attention to, but just overall cleanliness of layout and how presentable it looks. And then from there, I can get into the stuff itself.
First thing I look for, and the first rule book I ever read for a role-playing game had one of these, and had a great one of these right at the very start. An example of play.
I never read them.
You never read the examples of play?
No, they're usually written poorly.
What about the one in the D&D basic Redbox Mensa set?
Redbox? I never played Redbox, right? So I'm not a Beck Me guy.
Oh, no. Right, okay.
I hear it's good, though. I hear the one in Beck Me's good.
Hungar, when you learn new rules for a new game, what do you look for in a rule book? Hello, Hungar. Welcome to the stream, by the way.
Character creation. I look at
the first thing you look at.
How hard it is to create a character, because you can learn a lot about a game by how difficult it's going to be making that first character. Because the first thing I do when I get a rule book is I want to make a character. I want to see how that rolls. And if it's going to be a major pain in the ass, I'm like, wow, if making a character, one of the main things, if not the main thing that you have to do in this game to play it, is this difficult? How's the rest of the rules going to be?
Yes. I think it just depends whether you're planning on running the game.
Even running the game. So if I'm running the game, I'm still going to make a character because I need to know how to do it to help the players know.
Of course. I mean, I guess I'm the odd one out here then, because the first thing I look for is an example of play. I want to see, I try and find a section in the book which describes how the basic mechanics work. And have you read the Mensa Redbox basic D&D book?
Yeah, I've went through the Redbox D&D book. And
right at the start of the player's book, yeah.
The example of play is very good. A lot of the examples of play are good, and I do read those. Like when I pick up a new game book, I read the whole thing.
See, I don't. I skip and bounce all over the place, unfortunately. But yes, ease of character creation is an important one. But I'm going to stay on, because I want to stay on the topic of examples of play. Redbox Basic did examples of play very well. A game that did examples of play very poorly was AD&D.
Yeah,
because the examples did not mesh with the rules.
They never do.
No, they didn't mesh with the rules at all. I remember reading through the examples of play in the AD&D first edition books, thinking, okay, I'm looking to see how initiative works as it's described in the combat section, and this is nothing like it. There's no mention of segments or moving 10 feet to engage and all that sort of stuff. I'm thinking it's really, really simplified in the example of play. It just doesn't match the rules. So it just seemed to me that it was almost the example of play was written before the rules were finalized in that one, which
I think the example of play was written with them just thinking about how a game should run in their imagination without even considering the rules at all.
Very possibly. Very possibly. Yeah, very possibly.
But I've seen that in some other games also, where they do out a big thing of examples of play, where it's like, this is how we want the game to run. And then you look at the rules and you'd be like, WTF.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on here?
Another example where the example of play wasn't quite right was a game I run, and that's MERP. And right at the start of the example of play, it talks about making an orientation roll. And in the first few MERP books, nowhere was it ever mentioned anywhere else in the rules about making orientation rolls and how to do them. I didn't know what an orientation roll was until I got the second edition MERP book, and that actually explained it. But there've been two iterations of the book beforehand which had got these rolls in them, which just weren't explained in the MERP books. So that's another poor example of play. So if you're writing a game book to appeal to me, start off with an example of play, which explains the basic mechanics. It doesn't need to go into detail, just the basic mechanics. Right. Character creation. You both say you like to see character creation.
It's kind of helpful.
Yeah. Do you like to see an example character made for you?
Yes.
Along the way?
Depends. I mean, if it's well done, yeah, for sure.
And
I love they go down and it's like, you're gonna roll these many dice, and I've seen I don't remember what game it was where they had a sample character sheet, and it was showing how the people first started filling out the character sheet, and I really enjoyed that. I was like, this helps out a lot. When I printed up character sheets for Bears game, I printed up 4 of them because I knew I was going to screw up and I was going to need more of them. After looking at the rules for that, I was like, I'm going to need more than one character sheet for this shit. And I had a stack of paper this thick for scratch paper. Yes.
I won't say I had that much, but when I was making a character for Palladium, I had a one of the form fillable sheets, and I was hoping it would do a bit of auto calcing and things on there for me, just so I could see where it was filling in. Didn't do that very well or very completely. And yes, I've got bits of the notes, bits of paper down here as I was trying to put them together. One thing that, again, basic D&D did example characters well. Yep. MERP does example character well. AD&D doesn't bother with it at all, which to me was a bit of a pain in the ass. I like to see example characters provided on sheets in the set as well, if it comes with a set. Call of Cthulhu provides you with a number of example characters. The One Ring provides you with a number of example characters, and you can see a fully filled out character sheet, and that sort of thing will help.
I love that about Call of Cthulhu. I like looking at the example characters, and then I like when they use the example characters in the description of the game.
Yes,
that's what I want to see. I could give I like to look at the mechanics of a game. I don't care about the setting of a game, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to use my own setting.
Yeah.
Unless the setting is something extremely spectacular, I don't care about the setting, because sometimes when I play or run Call of Cthulhu, I like to do it in the 20s. But I've also, done Cthulhu in space, and I've done Cthulhu modern. It's just how I'm feeling and what misery I want to put my players through. When I play 3.5 or run 3.5, I use my own setting, because that's the great thing, in my opinion, about being a GM is you get to make the world. So, the setting of a game really means nothing to me. It's basic mechanics and character creation.
I think that as far as setting goes, and you mentioned you want to see a bit of background in there, Bear. You said you wanted to see a bit of background. No background. You look for no background.
I cannot stand
no background.
The crap ass fiction that 90% of RPGs has when they give you some some chapter of the novel they've never finished as the start of the game. It's like, don't care.
What about if that game, for example, look at, for example, 3 Leagues Conan is not sort of set a bit of blurb about the world important to
blurb
frame.
About the world. There's a big difference between lore about the setting and your crap fiction. They're two different beasts. You know what I mean? If I'm buying a setting book, I don't mind the crap fiction, because that's going to give me more idea of how the author sees the world and how characters are behaving and stuff. That stuff I like there. When I'm reading a rule book for the rules, which is what I thought we were discussing about rule books.
Well, we are, yes.
Get that out of the way. Save that for the back section, which is for GMs and appendix and all that fun stuff. You know what I mean?
So you don't want, So, for example, if you were to get the 3 League Conan book, you want to see stuff about the world shoved in the back for later.
Yeah, give me a primer in the back on the world and let me have the rules up front, or vice versa, however you want to do it. But I don't like when they mix all the sections together. It's a personal preference. I know some people love that stuff, and God bless them. More power to them. Fill your boots. But for me, my preference is not to have that.
If in a perfect world, and I know it costs more money for this, but a GM section and a player section should be in 2 different books. And unless your players are actively running a game somewhere else, they have no business ever going through the DMG.
That is true.
I hate trying to run a game when a player busts out a DMG and says, well, the rules here says... And I'm like, listen here, you bastard. This is my world, and my rules say this. Players need to worry about knowing their character class, and not about the rules of the GM. And if you're playing a Conan game and you don't know anything about the Conan lore, what are you doing with your life?
I am just going to say now, something's just been flagged up to me. If people want their real name to be used in chat and when they're talking in discussion, they will put their real name in themselves. So I know I opened up dialogue to you, but stop it.
Yeah, if you're using somebody's, I don't know who's using somebody's real name, but if you're using somebody's real name in the chat, you're being a douchebag, and you do not need to be doing that shit.
As I've said many times, we have an expression in French, which is when you have a little bit of jam, you have to spread it very thin. Do you understand?
Yeah. My real name is Morris, if you wanted to know that, because it's on all my other social media.
I didn't know that at all. I never knew your real name.
It fits and doesn't fit at the same time. It's very disturbing.
I know two
Morris
Morrises.
Morris or Maurice.
One of them was my grandfather.
But there are only 2 options when it comes to comment. You cannot remove a specific comment. You can only ban a user to remove their comments or put someone in timeout. So the only way to remove a comment is to ban the user at the same time.
Sadly, it's the thing, right? Like, and I mean, Very few people I've ever banned, but there are some because they push it. You know what I mean? They will not stop. They've got a bone in their teeth and they're refusing to let go of it. Well, at some point in time, you're no longer amusing or even interesting. You're just annoying, and that's when you become banned. And if you know what, if you don't like me, don't pay attention to me. It's real easy. You know?
Yeah. I will always be Hungar for everybody. I know
You are Hungar, buddy. Hungar is not. You're like James Bond. It's not a name. It's a position. When you're gone, some new Hungar will take your place.
And I even put the proper spelling in it. It's not like Morse code, you bastard. It's like Morse the cat. You don't even know how hard that was growing up.
See, I mentioned my real name in some of my videos, so I don't care.
Yeah. You know, my name's Morris, but I've been called Hoss, like Hoss Cartwright, since I was born. Like my family, they all call me. Everybody in my family call me Hoss. So it's like my family, we use nicknames. So my brother James, he has a nickname. I don't call him James all the time. I feel sometimes when I'm trying to say his name, I have to think about it because we don't call each other James. Sometimes my brother mess up, not thinking, and just call me by my nickname on the stream. And it doesn't bother me because if you guys try to dox me, if I don't like you and I don't know you and you don't let me know who you are, if you approach me, I just wouldn't approach me in a situation unless you identify yourself first, because
G Master G, I don't know whether I should apologize to you for that or take credit because there's pain involved in running MERP. There's no S in MERP, by the way. It's MERP, not MERPs. I have picked up
Middle Earth role-playing systems.
I've told Hungar off for that before because he's called it MERPs. It's MERP.
We played that game so much growing up. We played that game. We started playing that game one afternoon, about 2:00 in the afternoon, hanging out in my buddy's room. We had all the curtains closed. We were in that game. We opened up the curtain and it was still daylight out, and we're like, "Oh, we've only been playing this for a few hours." It seemed like it was longer. It was like 9:00 in the morning the next day. We were running through Moria.
MERP is Middle Earth role playing, and I currently run a game of it on my Discord fortnightly on Saturdays. The reason why I run it on the Discord is because I use the Roll20 sheets, which do the heavy lifting for you. It's quite a number heavy game, but when you play it with the Roll20 sheets, doing a lot of the calculations for you automatically, it makes it run a lot more smoothly. So if you do want to run MERP, then the Roll20 sheets are highly recommended for it.
I have a question about your Discord game, Fortnightly. I love Fortnightly. 7 years ago type of bullshit. Freaking Brit. Do you have any room?
Right now, I'm not sure. We typically have 5 or 6 players most Saturday, which is about the right amount. We have had 7 players on one occasion. We've had one player recently pull out, which might offer up some room. Some sessions we might have 4, in which case, yes, you can worm your way in then and get in. But it's one of those. It's a bit of a drop-in game. But most sessions, if I have 5 or 6 players, I will probably lock the door at that point because I don't want my head to explode.
If you ever get like an open spot, like an open permanent spot, let a brother know.
I will do. Oh, no problem.
My Rohirrim is thirsty for orc blood.
Right. Okay. Back to rule books. Right. We've mentioned about character creation. Character creation. Yes, it's very important. Yeah, Duralumin is always 2 hours late because of work schedule for that game. So the other players like it when he arrives, though, because he brings some sense to the table. And he's good on the lore. So we're going back to character creation. One thing MERP did do well in its rule book is explain character creation. Because even though you were flicking backwards and forwards a little bit, it actually talked you through it. And the 2 ebooks have got a load of example characters which show how characters progress through the levels, shows how characters develop, which is quite good. That's about the only thing that's good about a MERP rule book, unfortunately. So ease of character creation is important. Basic D&D got that right. MERP got that right. What the hell did Palladium do?
Oh, bunch of drugs.
Palladium decided that they're going to just test people.
Man, I've been diving a little bit into the Palladium community since I started running Palladium Fantasy. It's a kumite, you know, like it's a full on, you know, holy mother of God, people are you think D&D players argue rules? Pah! They're like little old ladies having a slight disagreement over the color of the carpet at a tea social on a Sunday compared to the Palladium people. They get deep. But the weird thing is they tend to be very chill about it with each other. Like I haven't seen anybody rage quit or call someone a bad name. They've just been like, I disagree, you're wrong, here's why, and like da. Neat. But man, yeah, those books are whew.
I would have been able to make a character for the Palladium game if it hadn't been for Cody's.
Cody's walkthrough was amazing.
Yeah, Cody's like, screw this. This is the way a character should be made.
Yeah.
Yeah, Palladium, I guess it's class-based.
It's class and skill-based. It's class and skill-based. It's a combination.
So the way I've been led to understand, and I could be wrong, but the way I've been led to understand is that the original idea for Palladium Fantasy was basically an expansion of AD&D, right? But then they had to change names and all that kind of stuff. So, strength became physical strength and dexterity became, physical prowess and all that. So that's why you see all these weird terms instead of class. It's occupational character class and things like that. But it's still a good game.
Well, I've only got one example experience of it, and everybody who saw the game said it was fantastic, and I had a lot of fun. I still don't know if I have like healing spells or anything, so I don't know what's up with
You don't have any magic there, Friar Tuck.
Oh, nice.
You don't have any magic. You're just a dude with a stick.
I'm down with that. I hope when somebody gets hurt, I hope they come to me trying to get me to fix them. I am a doctor. I do have doctor skill.
Yeah, you got first aid and stuff. Yeah.
I'll say, even with Cody providing that step-by-step run through, all the flicking backwards and forwards, it took me 3 hours. And my character sheet is only 3/4 full. And my head was fried by the end of that. Having read through all of that and flicking backwards and forwards, it is an absolute ball ache. So, in terms of character creation, are there any examples of play in Palladium books? Does it give you any examples of play? I didn't find one. I didn't go looking for one. I didn't go looking for one, to be honest, because I was only looking for character creation because that's what I needed to find out about.
I am a complete novice with the game right now, so I'm not the guy to ask about that stuff, right? Malachi, on the other hand, knows the system really well and would be a guy to answer those questions.
Yeah, I can see how once you get your head around it all, it can be a lot easier as soon as you know which bits and pieces to reference, and you've done it once or twice through. It's like MERP character creation. It'll take you an hour or two the first time you make a character. I can throw one together in 10 minutes now. But when I'm talking a new player through character creation, it takes an hour to an hour and a half because I have to talk them around the character sheet. It's not a simple process.
With Cody's paper, I could make a character. I could throw out a character like that now.
I could do one in probably about 40 or 50 minutes now, having gone through my first one or two. But there's still a few bits I need to try and.
I'm going to get the video of Cody and I making the character, and then if you want to post that for the people who are asking in the chat about Cody's thing, we'll do that. So just let me forget the link. That's the combat one. Where's the character making? Here we go. Building character. So I will put that in the private chat, and you can go ahead and throw that if you want.
Ace of Spades just came up with a good point. If you're important in a rule book, if you're going to have enemy stat blocks, give them weapon stats. don't want to flip 50 pages back to give a goblin a sword.
Yes.
I think one of the things that turned me off most about Castles and Crusades was I was running it and went looking for the goblin stats, and I'd gotten spoiled by 5e and even Old School Essentials, where they give me everything I need, and suddenly it's like I had no attack bonuses, nothing, because I have to go to the Matrix to find all that information. It's like, you know what? You could have included that in the stat block for the goblin. Would have made my life a lot easier.
Yes.
So I agree with that. What's Baron G Rock talking shit about me about now? What's up, Baron G? Why you want my attention, Baron G?
What up, BGR?
So, a system that explains character creation really well, other than the ones we've mentioned so far. Any examples?
Marvel Saga Edition. That was really well done.
I thought Marvel Superheroes wasn't too bad at explaining character creation.
It is pretty good, but Saga Edition was even better.
I didn't play that one. I never played that one. I played the original TSR Marvel Superheroes.
Cyborg Commando. Best.
Cyborg Commando.
That was the worst. MERP is not bad for character creation.
Yeah, it's quite a lengthy process in MERP, but at least that is the one bit of the book that is talked through
against
very well.
the Dark Master, which is the modern hack of MERP. I actually did a video on the my channel for the TSRPG channel, where I just took the book without reading it, punched up a character sheet, and made the character in real time. And it was pretty straightforward, and I was really impressed with the character creation in that game, to be honest.
Warhammer Fantasy Role Playing, that's not a bad one to make a character for.
I'll admit, when I first got the Conan Free League rulebook, I struggled a bit with character creation for that until I found a little online thing that helped you out. Thought that made it fall into place for me. But I'm not very
really
good.
That's Modifius.
Modifius. That's what I mean.
That's the great thing about YouTube, though. You can find a gentleman from India to help you do anything in 10 minutes. I have a hard time doing taxes, fixing your computer, playing a video game. YouTube's got a dude from India that will make it easy for you. And I think
you can understand him.
We don't appreciate how much easier we have it now, as opposed to when 30 years ago, when we were trying to play games like this and we had to figure out shit on our own without YouTube.
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu. People mention Call of Cthulhu. I think Call of Cthulhu's character creation, yes, it's spread out. It's quite easy, but it is easy. It's very easy, and it's pretty well explained.
My issue with most games nowadays, a lot of games you see nowadays, is everything is spread out. I think that there should be chapters that have certain things. On to the next chapter. Chapter, character creation. Chapter, freaking whatever. I mean, it all should be one. A freaking rule book does not need to be 400 pages thick. I'm not trying to read freaking The Stand by Stephen King when I'm playing a game. Okay. Make the books smaller, consolidate the rules, and put them all where they're supposed to be.
Yes. We're on topic, Nutty. We're on topic. We're talking about rule books.
Yes. Save us, buddy.
Save us, Saxius. Go on, Saxius.
Well, I was going to throw into the lot Shadow of the Demon Lord. That is another easy one to making characters. You pick your heritage. That's it. Done. Yeah. That's it. You pick your heritage. Done. You level up. Great. Now you pick your class. Done. Well, you level up.
You start off with a very basic character, don't you?
Yeah, but that's the point. You pick your heritage. Here you go. Slap it on its ass. Survive first session. Now you get to pick your class. Then you survive another adventure. Then you level up, and so on and so on. But they've gone out of their way to simplify it. But I do agree. Like there's got to be structure to it, and there's got to be logical steps to it. When I open the book, I expect there to be straight in, like, right, here is what the game is about. Here's the point of this game. This is what makes this game different. Good, you've got the hook in. Now bring me to the character creation. As Hunger said, that's a really important thing. As a DM, as a player, you've got to know what that's all about, because mechanics are going to be relying on that. Right out of the back from there, like I'd be expecting to see either straight into the equipment, so I can see what sort of, what's the world including from the blurb I've just been introduced to. And then once that's out of the way, I want to go straight into combat. I want to see mechanics. I want to see, how does my character function? How do I put one leg in front of the other? And after that, that's the DM's problem. That now it's the DM's territory. That's as far as I
like what is this game to be about, to be an example of play, though. That's my personal preference.
Yeah, I've been listening in from the start. Don't worry.
I like that. I like that to be an example of play, to demonstrate what the game is about, and make it a proper example of play and a good example of play.
Well, yeah, again, an actual example of play might not be able to be covered in 2 or 3 pages. Like an actual written out example of how it's done, you're going to be taking a very small section and doesn't cover everything that the shenanery and tomfoolery and bamboozlement that the players are going to get up to.
It can be simplified. It can be simple. It can be simplified.
Go on, Hunger.
What I like to see in a game is when they give the classes. If you're playing a game that's high on classes, I like to see an example play of the class. Like so-and-so's playing a thief. The so-and-so's thief does this, uses these skills. I like to see that. Especially for new players, if they don't know what they're doing, I want there to be examples of the classes and what the classes can do. And I want the classes to be easily understood and easily ran. Like in Shadowrun, you got the Deckers and you got the Riggers. Those guys are near impossible to run half of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just like examples, period. Like of how rules work and stuff like that. Like it's one of those things where it's like they say, "Oh, you have too many examples." No. You can never have too many examples, because that's what leads. Without them is what leads to these endless rules arguments, right? Where if you have an example explaining how the rule works, now you have a reference point. Everybody can just click right there. There's the point.
Yeah, but when I flip to a character, when I'm thinking about making a character for a game I'm playing, I want to flip through and I want to read everything about that character, because I'm a person who wants to know how to play my character. It's like
something else I like to see. We come to the nitty gritty of mechanics now. I like early on in the book, I like to have a chapter of basic rules. You see these starter sets you get nowadays. If they can do that rule book, there is the Call of Cthulhu introductory rules. 22 pages.
Perfect.
If you digest that, you can run a Call of Cthulhu game. Any Call of Cthulhu adventure module that's been produced with example characters. Okay, you might be able to create characters with this, but it condenses the mechanics for running the game down into such a simple and easy to understand manner that I feel that's how the basic mechanics should have been described in the main rulebook. And then you have a later section expanding on it. But if you can get a mechanics section in a book that thick, there's a similar one for the One Ring starter set. If you were to sit and try and digest the main One Ring hardback book, it's quite hard work. If you begin with the starter set, it takes half an hour to read through that rule book, and it's so simple.
Well, think about this, right?
As opposed to the one book for a freaking Arduin, which is a gazillion pages thick. You don't need this in a rule book.
What's bear grabbing now?
Bear's going to make us all feel, a little ashamed of our little books.
There it is.
It's not about the size of the book, Bear. It's how you read it.
You can work out with this goddamn thing. I'm just saying. Like, you can literally do, like, presses and shit.
Yeah.
It's a thick chunky boy.
What's up?
But if Call of Cthulhu's got those introductory rules, the One Ring's got those introductory rules. I think most games you can condense the core rules down to 20 odd pages, and I would like to see that near the start of a rule book to explain the basic rules. It makes sense.
Can we also agree we don't want to go to the direction of, well, depending on your taste, but we don't need to go to the direction like in 3.5 where they had a rules compendium book released to cross-analyze all the different rules across all of the splat books that they released out. That's the point where I think it's going a bit too far.
3.5 went too far, full stop, in my opinion.
Again, like if you use everything, then yes. But that's that. I just find it funny. There's like they ended up in that corner where they're like, oh god, there's so much. Here's an entire book just so you can cross-reference all the other books.
And G-Master, I agree with what you've been saying. Yeah, you need to have skill to distill a system to its core components. But yes, if you built it with solid design, then you should be able to do that.
Well, this is okay. Weird analogy, but I think it works. Back in the day, you only had so much space to write a program for computers, so computer programmers were really priding themselves on their tight code and how much they could get out of that tight code. Then as storage and media got bigger and bigger and bigger, they stopped writing tight code and they started writing expansive code and, so on and so forth, right? I think we see that today in the game design, where back in the 80s, man, there were so many games that were just, 40 pages, 50 pages, and that was the whole goddamn game, to where now we see 900-page omnibuses. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, it's huge. Is it that there's been a change in the attitude? Is it that, editors don't try and say, hey, bring that down a little bit? Is it because most of these games are no longer have editors overseeing them? They're just self-published. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on. Yeah, what you got, Sax?
I was just going to agree with you that I think it's definitely because back then we're going to have to make money on it, and at least for D&D, they already had like an underground build that they've built up on it. Many people these days, when they come out with their products, they're going to have to hit the ground running. So they've got to keep it either condensed, or they've got to then have as you showed with the Against the Dark Master, something thick and filled so that you get everything in one go. And if that's a hit, then you can start building on expansions from there.
Sure.
That's
I think Baron G-Rock's right here when he says there has to be balance also. Too much, you get overwhelmed. Too little, you don't know what you're doing.
Agreed.
I think rulebooks need to be complete. They need to be complete. But it's the layout, I think, that's important. If you have, say, for example, we start with, what is this game all about? I think we can pretty much agree that that's a really good way to start. Just a few pages. What is this game all about? Either an example of play or a brief description of the core tenets of this particular game. Go straight into character creation. Explain the basics. Give an example. Give a list of skills maybe that you can use, or a list of classes, without going into the details at this point. Then 15 to 20 pages on the core rules. That way you've got 30 pages at the start of the book, which you can read in an afternoon and digest easily and have the basic idea. And then you go into the tougher stuff, the more complicated stuff, the more detailed stuff. I think that would be a good way of laying out a rule book, personally. But it seems a lot of people over the years haven't thought that way. Which takes us to Gary Gygax, the ultra nerd, and the game that probably shaped our hobby, that was in existence for 9 years before Frank Menser produced a really easy to follow book. I would argue that Moldvay's wasn't too bad either. But in terms of Gygax's books, they were horrific at times to read, and AD&D wasn't really fully digestible unless you were some sort of superhuman until about 1989.
Well, I think it's also going to. Everybody has different levels of comprehension and reading skills, right? And that's something you have to take into consideration. I'm dyslexic. As a result, I became a diagonal reader. Walls of text are a nightmare to me, right? Like, I just can't stand them. Small print annoys the crap out of me because I got old man eyes, right? So I think it's only based on what people are able to read versus what they like to read versus what they're capable of reading, you know? And you can't make everybody happy. I mean, someone made the joke about, Omanal made the joke about how I've had conversations about color blindness working on Heroic. And it's like, yeah, that's something that was brought up to me. People were like, hey, I'm colorblind. Can you make a version of the chart that just tells me the color results as opposed to me having to look for blue and green because I can't see the difference between the two, blah, 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 blah. And I found a solution that was, I thought was rather elegant, and got the job done. But it was something to take into consideration, right?
Yeah.
No one takes dyslexia into consideration when they read rule books. I promise you that, because they're either technical writers or they're creative writers, and they just kind of do their writing style. And this is where I think our biggest weakness in the gaming hobby today is quality editors. At the end of the day, we don't have enough quality editors. And I don't like editors that I worked with one editor who literally just, was like, here's all the stuff you have to fix. And I'm like, you fix it. That's why I hired you. You know what I mean? Don't send it back to me. You fix it. If there's a problem, fix it. I'm paying you to be a proofreader and an editor. And they were like, well, that's not what editors do. I'm like, okay, well, then we're going to disagree on that. And I understood their point. And eventually I had to do it myself. But now when I work with editors, I'm like, hey, are you willing to make the fixes that you're finding? And that's up front before I hire them, so that I get quality editing out of them. You know what I mean? Like, I get something that's of value to me, not rewriting. But that's different stuff.
I'm going to say to violence solves everything here. Yes, in my case, because my concentration levels when I'm reading a book for the first time are terrible. I get very, very easily distracted by other shiny things that are happening. So what I want to see in those first 30 pages of the book, an example of how the game runs, a framework for character creation. And if I then see that, I will then bounce backwards and forwards between the two sections to see how the character creation bit works with the example of play. And I will do the same when if I read a basic setup of the mechanics. So in terms of actually reading, digesting, and then testing things out in my head to make sure I've got a grasp of how things all work together, yes, it will take me an afternoon if it's a brand new game system.
Yeah.
Because I will be trying to deconstruct it as I go. And I'm not very good at doing that. It takes me a while.
I'm going to jump the stream, guys, because I need to go fix dinner.
Why is it broken?
Yeah, it's not made. It's still raw.
Still raw, fair enough.
Is there 4-Quarter Cafe on today?
Yes, there is.
Thought so.
We're talking about Harn. We got one of the gents from Columbia Games coming on again to talk about the Harn world.
I know Squirrel Hermit is super excited about that.
Yeah, he's going to be on the panel, actually, yeah.
Nice. So, and I will still be in the chat on here because, I got to watch the Geek. Did I tell you, Geek, this is something completely off topic from games. I had a them start yelling at me today.
Did you?
Yeah, so I kicked them in the non-binaries.
You've been sitting on that joke all day, haven't you?
Well, on Geek Show on Friday, I always yell out, kick them in the nuts.
You do, yes, you do.
It's my thing. Like,
it is indeed. Let's see if
Seven chicken grease, everybody.
Cheers. I'm just gonna see if your message is working in the chat. Does it work in here? Does it work? Is it working?
Not.
It appears not to be working. No, YouTube is being a dick again. I can guarantee you the bear one's working. Bear loves his comment.
Here we go. Saxus, get us back on track. Come on, man.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, like, John, do I need to get the keys out and jingle them back onto topic?
Yeah.
Good heavens.
Right. So back to rule books. When we were younger, we had time to digest these rule books, and I know some of us found it a lot easier than others. I will admit now, I have never ever, not in my 52 years of life, have I sat and read a rule book in order from cover to cover. I simply cannot do it.
Yes.
Have you ever done that, Saxes?
Why are you asking me this? That is
Because
a
you're
loaded
organised.
question. That is a
You're
loaded
organised.
question. That is a loaded question. No, it's a loaded question. Because I've been repeatedly said, read the books from start to finish. Repeatedly on your streams. So at least you pay attention to that, even if it is to take the mick out of me. Yes, I do read them from start to finish. Because I go for the DM seat, which means that I need to have the full knowledge. I need to be able to do it, which often means that whenever groups come, or whenever I've got groups that go, hey, we want to do this brand new system, I go, that's great. I'll see you in however long it takes me to read it from start to finish. Because I'm not going to jump into a brand new game without knowing the system. And I've got a job. As you know, I've got a job that can, during the weekdays, I might lose an entire day, several days, and I might not be able to read much. So that leaves the weekends to read. So it doesn't mean, so new systems are more rare these days, purely because if I've got to sit down and read it from start to finish, that's going to take a while. So it's pre-selected systems these days, which, I mean, looking at my shelf is still a large selection. But yes, I read them from start to finish. But that's because I need that order of, like, where do we begin? What happens with the characters? When their characters are built, like, how do we build upon them? What's the leveling going to be like? How do I correlate the level ups to the powers that be the magics? Sitting down just reading spells is hilarious. Some of the ideas you can get from that, or just reading the Master's Manual.
The way my mind tends to work when I pick up a rule book, though, is my brain does switch itself off somewhat with a new rule book. I don't learn by reading, not very well. I learn by doing, always have. And if I pick up a manual and I read blah, 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 and this is explained more in detail on page 20, my brain will go, right, turn to page 20. So if that was on page 1, I've now missed out pages 2 to 19. And then on page 20, I might say, oh, this is explained on page 35. And I go, oh, we'll go there. And that's how I jump through the rule book like that to try and tie the threads. Imagine like a big bowl of spaghetti.
Yes. No, I know what you're saying. Because the moment that you read one thing and go like, this is further explained here, you then go, but I need to understand this one thing, so you go there to understand that, and then on and on and on. And then because you've then jumped halfway across, you then have to go all the way back to the beginning to then continue that thread, and then that continues ad nauseum.
Yes, it does. It does, and it becomes a pain in the ass. There, you're nodding.
Oh, I'm just agreeing with you guys.
Both of us.
Yeah,
agreeing with both of us. Wow.
I was a big fan of reading books cover to cover until I encountered Palladium, and then that hurt, and so I stopped. It was just like, okay, that was my first mistake. Don't do that again. Yeah.
Well, I find that taking notes while I read it works. So I'll be going through like, okay, I'm now doing character creation, blah blah blah. Like write it down because, this is what I was taught in school. Like there are two ways of memorizing it. One is reading it repeatedly, and then two is like writing it down, so that you then reinforce it in your head. That's another thing that I recommend doing.
I mean, one thing if I get a new system, before I start reading a book, more often than not, I'll try and find an example of play. If it's not in the rule book, now we've got the internet. I'll get onto YouTube and I'll look for an example of play. Or somebody describing it, somebody talking about how they've digested it. Cody's, yours and Cody's discussion on character creation and combat mechanics, that's always going to be a lot more instructive to me than any Palladium rulebook will ever be, because it's dissected the nonsense of the book. Something you were looking for the other day as well was that just a short list of skills and modifiers and stuff, like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
The appendices of rulebooks should be chock full of those sort of things.
So one of the things I'm doing with Heroic is it is a table-heavy game because of the nature of the game itself. But we're also doing an appendix at the back where we're just going to reprint all the tables in the back.
Yes.
So when you need a table, instead of flipping through the book, just go to the back section. There's the table I need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's just, that's for my brain. I need that type of stuff, you know?
I know they did that in the rewrite of the second edition of AD&D, and it's a godsend. I've printed out a lot of the different like tables and graphs that they got there, and I've got that at hand. It's so much easier once I've got that printed out in front of me. And these sheets that I've got, I refer to them consistently. You know, character saving throws, turning undead, encounter reactions, brilliant stuff, frequencies.
Have you read Old School Essentials?
No, I don't.
When you buy the PDFs, you get what are called the end papers, which is just a PDF of all the tables and charts and stuff like that. It's great.
One nice thing they do about those books is they reprint the tables inside the covers.
Yeah, that's the end papers, right? So
yes, that's good. That's really good. For when I run MERP, because they scattered the tables throughout the book, and then they did reprint them all in their own section, but it's not at the end. It's sort of 2/3 of the way through, which is a bit silly. When I run MERP, I've got these are all my printouts of the tables. That's the only way I can do it.
Yeah,
and I have those in front of me across the table when I'm running it, because otherwise it's an absolute nightmare. Of the book.
But it then also boils down to, again, like what is it that the game is trying to bring about? Because if the game is bringing about, like, let me use like Warhammer Fantasy.
The table section of the book there. It's part of the way through the book. Yeah.
But as I was saying, like, depending on what the game's trying to do, you know, in order for the book to like really bring it about, if it's like Warhammer Fantasy where the combat is going to be really intricate and very detailed, and you've got to put a lot of information in there, and you're both visual as well as, you know, written, then that's going to be taking a lot more, and that's, you know, readers were then going to have to find ways to digest that and bring that out in the forms of either printouts or the likes. So then finding a way for that to then be easily referenced is also something that's a godsend. A big offender using the Warhammer system is whenever you have to do criticals. You know, the moment you start having to roll like, oh, you did X amount of damage to this part of the body, what's the end result of that? And oh, you did bludgeoning versus the arm at 4 points. That means you've now broken his fingers. Looking that up from a DM's perspective and as a player's perspective, that was a nightmare. Because you had every single body part and how much damage that you could bring it down to and what the effects were. There was a lot to cross-reference over.
Well, I'm talking to you on Discord. You can't be here too.
I'm everywhere, man.
Here's a man with new glasses.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
The world looks strange.
I broke mine today.
Do you have a backup?
I have a really crappy backup, so it's off to the Dollarama to get 4 or 5 more cheap pairs, you know?
All right, so what did I miss? I expect you to fill me in over the last hour. You know?
We like good books, and we cannot lie. You other brothers might deny.
There we go.
That, honestly, it's that simple. Make the books utilitarian. You know, give us stuff that is easy for readers, and as well as those who are more visual. give us tables and give us easy references, make the book be sensible with its chronology, or at least allow for those of us who have got a shorter attention span to be able to click the hyperlink and bounce around in the book.
Where's my portable PDF? That's what I want. I want my book that I can just, like in the Dune book where I can just move the thing, Or my film book. That's what they were called, film books.
Okay.
I'm not good with PDFs.
Well, see, that's one of the reasons why I don't. I can definitely understand why players having tablets at the table, because having an easy reference for that, or going to be using D&D Beyond, because I've found that in some of my games, I'm actually starting to make use of that as a quick point of reference to look up rules, and it's like that's surprisingly handy to have that just at your fingertips.
Yeah, I can look up things in a book faster than I can on a PDF. I've found.
You can. Not everybody's like that, though.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying, it's amazing how fast I can find stuff in a book compared to a PDF, because I have this weird visual memory where it's like, I remember what that page looked like. Flip. That's the page. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Most of my long-loved game books I can open and like have that weird feel where you're like, here's where the player section is, just by how your fingers go across it. But when it comes to books, like for me, learning a game and being inspired by a game, I need the print, and then I'll reference through the PDF and stuff later on. Like but I cannot learn a new game system off of a PDF worth a damn.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I see people put those little tab markers like Squirrel Herman's talking about, like in their books, and I'm always like, savage, how dare you mark your book like that?
Oh, I should not be showing some of mine.
That's why having the PDF is great, though, because you can always print your PDF and then mark it up. I have a comb binder too, so I'll just print them out.
I can hear my grandmother when I would dog ear a page of the book and like the shit she would give me. That's what I see every time I see those things. I'm like,
yeah, just have a look here. They're all right here. Anyway, I'm being shouted at from Manfred. I need to bring up artwork. We need to talk about the artwork in the books.
Is that what that aardvark is? It's artwork.
Yes, artwork.
It's the same artworks in game books. What is this? Kerberos, the RPG?
So there's a good question. Sorry, no, I'm not going to go off on a rant. My apologies.
No.
Saxis is here. I will stay on topic in respect of the Dane.
Okay, book artwork. For me, I like it to be functional, fairly sparse, but I like it to reference whatever section of the book.
Yes. Please have it relate to the damn page we're talking about.
And what you're saying about how you visually imagine pages. That's how I used to get through the old Dungeon Master's Guide in AD&D. I would have a visual recollection of what the nearest piece of artwork was to the relevant section, and I would flick through, find the piece of artwork, and know I was within a few pages of where I needed to be. That's how I'd negotiate.
I'm not a huge fan of overdone art. I feel like
no, I'm not either.
I mean, I appreciate colorful art and really nice fantasy, scene portrayals. If you're going to have them in your game book, have them be like full page, presentations, kind of like you'd get in some of the older, even AD&D books and stuff later in life. You'd get like a little color print here or there. But yeah, like black and white art, more grayscale art is a lot. I prefer it because I feel that gaming, especially fantasy games, benefited heavily from the vagaries of the illustrations I had. First of all, they weren't always of a unified style, so you had multiple inputs of fantasy rendition into your brain, which allowed your brain to then fill in your version of fantasy. I feel like very much, I know it's considered excellent design nowadays to have a very unified art presentation throughout your books and throughout your series of books and throughout your entire product line. But I feel like at that point, though, it feels like I'm being spoon-fed one person's vision of fantasy. I mean, I can get it if it is a specific setting, like Warhammer 40K. I'm expecting to get Games Workshop's Warhammer art.
Well, yeah. You expect the art to set the tone of the game somewhat.
But with generic Fantasyland, it's slightly different.
Absolutely. I mean, as you say, I do prefer monochrome art in rulebooks. I get distracted by big color images. I like big color covers and maybe inside covers, nice big color bits in there. But in the main book itself, I like, for example, what they've done with the One Ring, where each chapter has a big piece of colorful art at the start, and then but there's it's little line drawings in amongst the text. But the big color plates in there mark the beginning and the end of a chapter, which help you navigate the book.
Yeah.
And yes, some of the MERP aardvark is very, very good indeed. Very, very good.
It's going to be known as aardvark from now on.
It is exactly. This is
Good name, aardvark.
I miss the old black and white art, to be honest. I think the first full color book I ever bought was the Star Wars Revised and Expanded back in the 90s, and it was like, oh my god, it's full color. And then it was whatever. I didn't care anymore. I still just wanted to read the book, right? And now it's like you have to be full color, or people like get really arsy about it, especially for superhero stuff. I wanted originally to make the interiors for Hero just black and white and just go that way, but boy, did I eat a bag of shit on that from everybody else on the team. It's like, you gotta be full color. It's superheroes. I'm like, okay, fine, I don't care, fine.
I mean, an example of books that I think are too colorful. And almost too formulaic are Watsy's books.
Yeah,
it's a barrage. It's a barrage of art in those. It's too much.
But it's what they are known for. It's a stable. It is a set way of how they do it. It's how they maintain quality control, and that's how they stand out, by being a stable. That's how they do it, and everyone else is then go out and be like, well, we're not them because we do this with our artwork.
Unfortunately, too many of the other higher end fantasy RPG companies do try to emulate that. You can see it with like not Privateer, but Kobold Press, for example. Yep. Kobold Press's interior art is better actually than Watsy's. It tends to be a little bit, I don't know, it's not as overdone, but it's still pushing to that same quality. Now, one of the things I like about Frog God, I think it is, still keeps that black and white art.
Yes,
which is good. So,
but there's also different appeals they're going for. Kobold is again.
Kobold is like
what
the Pepsi to their Coke.
Exactly, that's like.
I thought that was what Paizo was.
Well, Paizo is kind of trying. My understanding, they've tried to differentiate themselves more with the second edition, but that's neither here nor there. At least in terms of their artwork, Kobold is definitely trying to be in that vein, appeal to that same audience, but then have their own little niches.
RC Cola.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. And then you've got Frog God, who's basically gone, we'll do Oversight, we'll do 5e, we don't care.
Well, Frog God's tagline for the longest time was 5e with an and OSR presentation. That was their selling point.
And the thing is, when I've got a number of 5e groups, and whenever I present to them Frog God's thing, they're like, oh, this is the dangerous stuff that Oscar's pulling out. Because whenever I show them Frog God or anything that's like that, even though it's geared towards 5th edition, somehow these monsters just end up just kicking their asses. And they just go like, oh god, no. It's the black and white one.
Frog God tends to design with that old school mentality where balance is bullshit.
Yes, and I love it. But my players do too, but they don't have a choice because I'm their DM.
General Nuts mentioned Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Yes, it's full color art, but one thing they do here, for example, big page, beginning of chapter 6, and then during the chapters, the art tends to be more like that in the pages.
I mean, glossy and hard to see on camera? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But
that's how it seems to be. You're right.
I don't mind that. I don't mind. I do find bits of it a little distracting at times. But I don't think it's a good looking rule. I do think it's a good looking rule book. I do think it's a very good looking rule book. Right, tables. For God's sake, do that on tables.
Oh, you mean have the shading?
The shading.
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah.
Always do that.
Yeah.
Always do it.
I don't know if it came
Never
up.
don't do it.
I don't know what the plan is, but if there's a plan as far as the flow of the conversation goes. But I know, like in module design, one trend that's come up that I really do enjoy is having the mini map sections on the pages when you're describing a group of rooms.
Oh yes.
I very much like that, to keep from, give me a big map at the front of the book, maybe in the middle of the book, back of the book, or it's a pullout. But pullouts are kind of hard, and nobody wants to pull them out of their book anyways. So having those little mini maps, like if these 2 pages cover the description of these 6 rooms, then I want a map of those 6 rooms in the corner of one of those two facing pages.
Yes. It's all about making the book usable, making it as user friendly as possible. Palladium, are you watching?
As much as I hate the term quality of life, I do agree. That it does increase the usability is a good word. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just make the product good, Yeah. Like I've gone to hell and back looking at how other people do layouts and designs and all that. And then, I had a choice of 3 different people to go with for layout for Heroic. And I looked at all their work and I'm like, this guy, who's in the UK, by the way, John, I'm like, this is the guy. And I talked to him and we worked out a deal, and I'm really happy to have him on board for the project. But this guy's layouts are sweet. He knows how to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing arses me off more than when I see someone using full justification, which I'm fine with on columns, but they don't use hyphenation. So you get that weird bottom of a paragraph where the letters have 18 spaces between them. And you're just like, how did you not, what? Why don't you, how would you not catch that? Like it's insane to me.
Yes. And try to lay out the sections. This is something that OSE does very, very well. Try to lay out the sections and arrange art in relevant places to fill pages if necessary, so that the sections start on new pages.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have to put just a little pile of bags of gold coins and a dagger down in the little corner as accent art, instead of having half a paragraph there,
When I was studying desktop publishing in the 90s, white space was the new hot term everybody wanted to use in their design layout, right? It was always, you gotta leave white space every now. And I'd be like, it just looks empty. It doesn't look good. If I turn a page and the paragraph ends and there's like a 3/4 of the page is just empty space, stick some fucking art in there.
Yeah, this is where that black and white art is, stands out too, because they're so easy to just throw in. A tabletop with a skull and a half-burned candle and an open book in your magic section.
Done.
Yeah.
Or even the corner of a wall meeting a floor with some cobwebs and some festering dungeon goo.
Omanal's here. We can all shut up now. Hey, Omanal.
Here's a perfect example of what I've just been saying. For example, this is the OSE core rulebook.
Oh, no, listen, Gavin Norman's layout is exquisite.
He
should be studied.
He went to painstaking lengths of rewording spells and everything to make sure it would fit per page, no exceptions.
Vehicles.
Yeah,
each of these sections is beginning and ending on a new page.
Do you do this at church, John? Do you just show the Bible to people and yell at people who already agree with you? Is that what you do?
Church?
You know what I mean. You're preaching to the choir, son. We agree. We all agree on the OSE.
I think he's doing that for the
OSE.
audience.
I think this channel, everyone agrees on OSE. I'm pretty sure this is an OSE type friendly place overall.
I just want to see John go out.
Rulebooks, yes.
I just want to see John on the streets now, basically going out there like, "Have you heard the new word? OSE. Have your die."
Speaker's corner with a copy of the player's tome,
Like a sandwich board with a dungeon geomorph
ding,
map
ding,
on it.
ding, ding.
Bring out your dead.
Thou shalt roll 3d6 in order.
The second coming of Gygax is nigh.
But the other part of that is notice that the small books are self-contained, and then that goes into the larger one in there. So it's like spells. And part of the reason I bought the individual books is if I was going to play with a bunch of players, is guess what? We don't have to tear up the book. I know that you guys were all talking about flipping back and forth. It's like, here's your spells. This is for this. But that's one thing I did not like about first edition is when it references a spell about 20 pages before and you have to flip back and forth. I understand why they did it for that, but man, what a pain in the butt when you're starting like, what does this spell do? Look at the cleric, from so many pages further. And it's not so, this is the other part of when we're talking about rule books, if you can put in hyperlinks with the PDFs, that has made things a lot easier. Okay, now I'll just click on there and now I'll jump back to wherever that's referencing. I think that's a big factor that we haven't dealt as much with books, but man, with the PDFs and hyperlinks, man, that makes it so much nicer.
I'm not a fan of PDFs at the end of the day. I accept their use and I have used them, but I prefer books.
I prefer books whenever I'm sitting down reading and enjoying the book for what it is. But whenever I'm at a game table and I'm trying to look stuff up, Control F and the hyperlink makes a huge
I'm not bringing a computer to the game table to be able to Control F. I'm using at best a tablet, and that's a pain in the ass to search for stuff in a tablet.
Well, no, I do that with my tablets. It doesn't bother me too
Really?
much.
So you have a keyboard attached to your tablet? Because how you Control Fing anything on a tablet?
Oh, I can. Well, I just click the little thing that has a little thing that.
You're doing something completely different than what you described. You're a liar, sir, and that's the problem.
No, I have a keyboard for my tablet too. I just don't bring the keyboard with me.
Oh,
Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
No, Manel. I don't like this new angle. You don't look like Inspector Gadget anymore.
Gosh.
There we go.
But no, I mean, those are the things. And I know that you guys were talking earlier about character creation. The one thing I like about doing character creation is that determines on how easy it is for me to find stuff. I'll use a good example of Shadowrun 5th edition. They have one sentence that says on what you can add, what your maximum is, and it's mentioned nowhere else in the entire book. I'm like,
that's bad design right there, because
Exactly.
if there is a maximum that you can do, it should be a header somewhere in there that's more than one sentence.
And it's buried, in like the wall of text. And, as much as, and I know Bear mentioned about the font size, when we'll talk about size of books, a lot of it is look at the font size of the old first edition books and how big would they be now, especially when you start including all the art. Those 3 books alone, 900 plus pages. I mean,
an example is looking for lifting capacity in 5th edition, or carrying capacity. It's not listed under the strength attribute. What the hell is with the fingers, dude?
General Nuts talking about fat fingers.
My fingers being too fat for tablets. Trust me, your wife likes them. And
no, but in the book though, they don't have that information next to the ability scores. I think that you don't want to necessarily have everything that an ability score can do next to it, but I do feel it's a good idea to have something near an ability score that explains how it relates to the game. Because people are, as they're making their characters, they're going to want to.
Hang on. General Nut, there was a joke. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you. It's a knee-jerk reaction. I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to call you shit, man. I apologize. Okay, sorry. Eli, continue. Just because there's too many zing, zing, burn, burn. I'm like, oh, fuck. No. All right.
My Cthulhu command doesn't work anymore.
I'm going to mention something that Eli mentions. Either have it next to it or reference the page to go to on your lifting capacity.
That's another thing. Like a little bit sidebar. How to use strength is covered on page. Bleh. I mean, yes, indexes are a thing, but especially if I'm reading through a game and learning how to play it as they want you to start in chapter 1, character generation, and work your way through. Then having some idea of what it all means helps because, like, okay, I rolled a 10. What the hell does a 10 mean? All I know is I don't have a bonus. I must suck then. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was one thing that they did do, I think, very well. But it says reaction adjustments. Like when it shows all the stats, what the hell's a reaction adjustment? Where does this apply? I like, talking about it. I like simple character creation when it says first, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Like, oh, okay. Step 1, roll these stats. Step 2, pick a class. Step 3, you're like, oh, okay.
I mean, if you have a universal descriptor that you can apply to all of them, that's great. Kind of like going back to like face rip, for example. Every one of those has, feeble all the way up to blah, blah, blah. And those are like, normal human with some training, normal human with exceptional training, maximum of human capability. Those apply to all of your ability scores. So you can have just one little reference chart in the ability
You've
section.
mentioned phase rip. It's like catnip to bear.
Well, he's talking about the benchmarks, and the benchmarks are really useful in Marvel Superheroes. I don't know what this phase rip
Without being specific.
In Marvel Superheroes, it's really good, the benchmarks. But the thing is that they do is the benchmarks are different for each attribute. They're not the same. Not all of them. 30 is the maximum normal human, for example. On fighting, amazing is the maximum a human can have, that type of thing. So it's really good to have that there.
I did think that was pretty cool by having it individually. This is a person like this. And yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it gives players an understanding of what the stats mean and what it can be. If we suddenly say, oh, if it's let's say a 10 intelligence, well, how smart is that? Well, is that a 100 IQ? Is that what is it? Does it matter?
Well, especially in games that use bonuses tied into ability scores, because if you're not getting some definition, like I was kind of hinting at earlier, if I have no bonus, or I'm looking at penalties, then my knee-jerk reaction as somebody learning the game especially is going to be that my character sucks now. Because clearly there are people who are going to get bonuses, but I don't know unless I look further on that I can still carry more than somebody with, say, like a strength 8 or strength, in 9. I can, I'm at my intelligence 9. I'm not a dimwit. I'm just average.
I'm going to mention something. We're talking about rules, and we did talk about the red box, but those starter sets, and I mentioned Star Frontiers in particular. It had the basic rule set, which was super skinny. And then it had the advanced rules immediately afterwards. So you're like, oh, okay, they're 2 different books. You can hand them off. I thought that was really good. It gives players much less options, but they can just start in one with it.
Sorry, John triggered me with his functional pancreas privilege.
I don't know, was he eating an eclair?
Yeah,
my wife has just presented me with a cake. So
okay.
You guys just talk amongst yourselves while I.
Okay.
But I agree with you, though. I don't like. Sorry, was that?
I'm gonna have to jump off here.
Right,
Time to
get
go to
out.
sleep.
It's enough.
See you, Saxius.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Hi, Zax. Take care. I agree with Eli. I don't like when they have these wide range of penalty stats. Like, there's something I don't like about D&D, that 10 is the average or 9 is where you stop having a penalty and stuff. Like, I don't like that. And I think that's because Marvel had a massive influence on my game design and preference, because you got poor, feeble, typical. So 3. At 3, steps, you're a normal person now. And I don't think you need more than 2 levels of not normal, inferior, impaired, and we're done at that point in time. It starts getting down to this, like, well, I've got a -7, I've got a -8, I've got a minus this. It's just like players automatically think a character is shit when they're rolling up a D&D character, and they get that because they see the chart, and the chart tells them, or the table tells them you suck.
And how much granularity do you really need in certain cases? Like you said, that's more than enough. But like, I know you guys talk about Palladium. There is no negative for having a 3 stat.
No.
So 3 to 15 or whatever it is identical.
Yeah, 3 to 15. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're effectively identical, and so that doesn't really hurt you. And I think that's the hard part of going back but it also doesn't really make you go, "Oh, this character's trash," and we're just going to throw it out.
I'm talking about probably 3rd edition onwards, General Nut.
Yeah, yes. Where the bonuses are really sort of spread. But I want to come back to, and I know this is something that Bear's going to jump on. You mentioned the phrase our wall of text.
I'm sorry, what?
Wall of text.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
See also every Palladium book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're writing a rule book, use bullet points. Use short paragraphs. Use short paragraphs. Use bolding and underlining for keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Never bury a rule in a wall of text that's half a page long or whatever.
Capitalize game terms.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of a paragraph. If you're referring to strength, the attribute, put a capital S on it. But that's not proper grammar. I'm not writing a fucking novel.
Writing a manual, not a manuscript.
Yeah.
You know? The other thing too.
One other thing is,
Go ahead.
Years ago, someone asked, "How long should a paragraph be?" And the guy went, "About that long." Which was something. No. I mean, to be fair, that's generally true when you start looking. And the other part, and I noticed this, was the spaces between paragraphs. I much prefer over the indentation and then just put them like right next to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, put a line between them. Paragraph about that big, and put a line underneath it.
The other thing too is,
if you're writing in Word, you can just set that as a text style to automatically put a 3-point space at the end of a line.
Oh yeah.
One thing I learned a lot in with war game rules, and this can apply tangentially to RPGs. Never underestimate the power of a chart or a graphic to demonstrate your thing. So I don't know how many war games rules and rules of other sorts that I've read through where they go through big, long, just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. And really what they're trying to say could be expressed by a chart.
Absolutely.
One line of stats down one side, one line of stats across the way. Even if you're going to put all that text in there, give me the chart. You said bullet points, a diagram. If you're talking about cover, take some of your white space on the page and show me a graphic showing a little character hiding behind full cover, behind partial cover, and exposed. If you're talking about positions like kneeling and prone, if that's actually how granular your game is, show me. Show me. So when I'm flipping through the book nightmarishly, I can look at that picture and go, "There's my cover."
I'm going to be that's not true. I'm going to agree with Eli on that. But the other part that starts coming down to, if we're going to be talking about tables, how about this? Every other line or every 2 lines have a different color or something, so you can break it up. There's nothing worse than having this big wall of text and you have to get a ruler out and you have to go to follow it all the way across to see if it's correct or not. Because boy, I don't know how you guys did this, but the number of times I've put it off a number just by one above.
John was pointing that out earlier.
Yeah.
Use your shading when you're when you're making charts. I need to step away real quick, but I'll be right back.
All right. I think Justin's got a good point here as well. This is another issue I had with Palladium. They dive straight into the acronyms and they splash these big acronyms around everywhere.
No.
And I just wanted to dive into character creation without having to understand all those acronyms.
Which also helps, and they do this in the military. If you're going to do an acronym, it has to be in the back also, next to your glossary. And that's the other part is you need a good glossary in there because not everyone understands all the terms.
Yeah.
That's
if you have an excellent table of contents, you can offset an index. But you got to have a really good table of contents at that point in time and tight grouping.
I'm going to bring this up though. I don't know about you guys, but for the index, I'm looking for something particular. For the table of contents, I'm just looking for really big stuff. Like I don't want more than about a page for a table of contents.
And that's fine, but you can have more. You can really have more. And it's really for PDFs. I do that in my PDFs when I make them. I break them down and every subsection gets a sub content. So you can just pop open the side and click to go right to that thing. But indexes, like I don't even know are there people out there who specialize in making indexes? Is there someone I can go hire who's really good at indexing? Like, I don't know how to do that. What are you giggling about, John?
What you've just posted in private chat.
Yes, Coco killed it. That's for sure.
Keep talking, you pair, while I calm myself down.
Okay, Omen, I'll talk. I can get a drink.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of other things. So, and hopefully we'll see this with Palladium with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they're coming back. Doing the copy and paste and having two different fonts. That's one. If you're going to do a font, if you're going to italicize or something, then it needs to be important. Don't just randomly put in underlines, italicized for all of that. And Palladium is the worst for just doing copy and paste and bring things over. And some things change and some things don't. The other part that I didn't like about Palladium was put all your weapons together so I can get all the bonuses together on that. There's that aspect.
There should be cheat sheet charts which just summarize all the skills, summarize all the armor, summarize all the weapons, and have definitions of what if there's acronyms used on those charts, have them underneath the tables.
I don't know if you did this, but this is why I usually buy a lot of the Dungeon Masters screens, because they actually put in the charts that you need. Now, I wouldn't mind it so much now, but sometimes put those charts together on their own pages, whether it's in the center or something, and the day of PDF, let me print those out on a single page instead of trying to get a wall of text below and a wall of text below, above, and I get that one chart. Sometimes it's like, please see, this is where I think that, Gavin Newsom did a really good job of putting on one side, you get to see the table, and the other side, you can see a lot of the description. Now, sometimes he has the description at the bottom, but man, that makes it so easy. If I just want to do a print, I can print out that one chart right there. Like, oh, okay, there we go.
One thing that the AD&D book did quite well, first edition book, is how many of us, after a few months of ownership of that Dungeon Master's Guide, could flick straight to those combat tables in the middle.
I didn't because I used the screen and it had all that.
Fair enough.
That's what I was talking about with the memory of the finger memory for the book, though. Once you flip through a book long enough, I mean, heck, I have books that'll actually open to commonly, if allowed to lay open on their own, they will go to commonly referenced sections, especially my softbounds.
Exactly. I would do that too. It's like, oh, I know which page this is on. And after a while, it becomes muscle memory. It's like, oh, it's within one or two pages of this. And that's where art helps too. Let's go ahead.
It was good that AD&D put all of those on one 2-page spread. Yes, it was in a silly place in the book. But you could find it quickly after not long.
When we were talking about art earlier, in the Marvel Superheroes game, there is a movement chart, which is very important because it tells you how fast people can move. It's a very important chart. And it's also right next to a page where there's a picture of She-Hulk falling out of a building. So I know when I'm looking for that chart, just split She-Hulk. There we go. Okay, that stuff matters.
I'm going to mention something with the color, and I don't know if you've noticed this, is some of them will actually put, like, whatever chapter it is, they'll have the color on the edge of the page.
Yeah.
So you can literally look right over through there. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes it easy. Instead of having you yourself tabbing everything.
That's good design too. If you can color code your chapters and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it just needs to be like a little thing on a certain part, but when you look at it, you're like, oh, there's chapter 1, 2, 3. You can, it's a lot of it is subconscious.
I know it's an unpopular edition of the game, but 4th edition actually did something interesting where they started using card game symbology to help reference rule sections, which is helpful in a reference context. I mean, it doesn't necessarily work for me, but I'm also not the youngest and most current of audiences. And so, face it, companies are going to make product that appeals to the people who are going to continue buying books for the next 30 years as opposed to the ones that are going to die in 20.
I agree with you on that. Well, I don't have any problems as long as it's consistent.
And that's what I mean. So, like, they had a symbol for the combat section or a particular combat effect or a spell effect or whatever.
I mean, but like you're saying for the symbols, as long as that's where the glossary comes in. Glossary of symbols. Oh, okay. Now I can, because sometimes I forget. It's like, oh, what?
Yeah, that is something I've run into. Like, oh, look, this book is clearly using some sort of symbol mechanic, but they don't tell me what those are.
Oh, yeah.
I have to figure them out.
Or they're buried way in the middle, like we were talking about. It's like, guys, come on.
And for the love of God, stop trying to make your books look like computer readouts. I'm looking at you, Cyberpunk Red.
I hate that book.
Well, that book was written with the PDF in mind first. And that's the problem, because they're like, everybody's going to want to be on their data pad playing like real cyberpunks. I'm like, no, some of us are just going to want to still roll dice and read a flippy book.
Remember that thing about not being the most young and modern of audiences there, buddy?
Oh yeah, I was firmly pointing at myself as well. So
no, absolutely. But that's the thing, right? We are old men.
Well, it's hilarious because I got to think about my 24-year-old who won't even talk in the same room as a Google.
So, for example, the font choice, right? The Mithras game, I was in a chat somewhere talking about it. I said, yeah, it's just the font just doesn't work for my old man eyes. Sorry, it's really hard to read, and even on the PDF, I got to zoom it up enough and all that kind of stuff. And two other guys were like, yeah, I have the same problem. And then all the young people were like, well, I don't have any problem with that. And it's like, well, enjoy your youthful eyes. They'll eventually leave.
Say okay, boomer, without saying okay, boomer.
Well, I mean, look at the Player's Handbook 1E versus 5E.
People must have had better eyes or better vision coverage back in the 70s.
But I mean, when you look at the 1E stuff, it is itty bitty, and you're looking at that.
Well, yeah.
And that's why when everyone's talking about the size of the books, at a certain point, they were allowed, 130 pages in most cases? And so they just made the font just smaller and smaller. You're like, really? Do I need to get a magnifying glass and just put it over as I'm reading? There was that. But the other, the other part is, Bear's talking about fonts. Stop trying to use the super fancy fonts. By God, give me Arial any day over New Times Roman. And then there are some really weird ones where they want to give that Gutenberg style look, whenever you're writing. And
I mean, if you want to do that for like a heading, or you want to do some sort of like medieval illuminated first letter, drop down kind of thing for the start of your chapter, fine. But,
it should only be like that one,
I do not need your entire game written about Dark Age Vikings to be written in a faux Futhark English script.
Yeah. When I was talking to the layout guy for Heroic, he's like, what do you see as a font choice? And I'm like, I want this to be a throwback to the 80s, right? Like, that's my area. He's like, yeah.
Comic Sans.
I'm like, Arial. He's like, right on. He was like so happy as soon as I said Arial. I'm like, we can use the Arial font family.
That's actually one thing. Comic book superhero RPGs need to stop using Comic Sans as an actual, choice for their text. It's the eye doesn't track it well because there's no serif, and the serif is there to help your eye track.
I've been reading comics since I was a kid. My eye tracks that stuff just fine.
I get it.
I'm while we're talking
mass market, not
yeah, I know, but again, I don't care about the mass market. The mass market can bite my bum. I care about what I want.
So the newer stuff, and I'm going to mention, and I know you don't like this, but the stuff that Monty puts out for their games with the stuff on the side, and they hyperlink it for back and forth, and then they do put certain symbols where it references other books. That is a godsend in certain cases. Like, oh, this symbol means it's on such and such page of this other book. If you're using a supplement or something, they write that really well. Their font's a little small, but to be fair, their books are like 600. Like the Cipher book is 600 pages alone, and if they did a bigger font, it'd be 800 pages.
There's a format thing. Book size.
Yes.
Books do not need to be the size of a Webster's Unabridged Dictionary to be a cohesive all-in-one RPG. If your RPG is that big, you're trying to do too much, at least with that one book. Give me a rule book that has in the back of it a small section of workable, vehicles, monsters, whatever you need for your setting, and then give me a dedicated book for that.
Or do a slipcase.
It's still going to be a dedicated book for that.
Well,
Call of Cthulhu does that. That you've got the giant, keeper's guide, and then you got the player's guide, and then you got the monsters book. But
yeah. Well, no, I mean I have some books that are 600 pages, and you're just like, good God, and you try to open it, and let alone, I do like the physical book, but at a certain point, it's like my hand is getting tired trying to read it.
Yeah.
Good night, Jake. Good night. Good night. Good morning. Good morning. Good night.
No. They're talking about the Mage, the Ascension stuff. Well, part of that is I understand why they're doing it, but
there's a Mrs. Omenal. I didn't know there was a Mrs. Omenal.
No, that was my missus.
Okay, so I'm talking to the side. I'm like, is he talking to someone? I'm trying to do 8.5 by 11 for heroic. I was going to do 10 by 7, which is the trade paperback. They call it the executive. But I'm going to go with just 8.5 by 11, like the old school books. And my goal is to keep it at 200 pages.
Yeah.
Don't need more than that.
I'm just going to welcome to the stream, young Iman, you've joined a stream on how to write rule books. Have you ever read an RPG rule book?
No. Well, I mean, I did sort of read the Palladium background stuff from last week, but other than that, no.
How nightmarish was it for your first rule book that you read to be a Palladium book?
Oh, man, it was a lot. And like, I even messaged Bear in the Discord saying, please don't lambast me if I don't remember everything.
The crazy thing is that Palladium isn't even consistent book to book.
Oh, that makes it worse. Because you go to Riffs, and then you go to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then you go to Splicers.
Was it...
They're different. The bonuses are slightly different, so you have to check each book.
Well, beyond that, the rules are located in the books are different. Brian did a really good one.
He's doing his Inspector Gadget pose.
Brian from Bearland, Gaming with ADHD did he actually did a chart that shows where the same sections appear in which core rule books for various Palladium RPGs. It's actually quite nice.
So Omenal's disappeared.
Well, no, I just wanted to we're trying to do this. I'm just using this as an example of what he's talking about, which is if you look at Twilight 2000, which I think is really good for some things. Now I'm going through the rules and I won't give an opinion until I've actually read everything, but you've got a referee's manual. So this has all your rules and things like that. And okay, good. Then you have your player's manual, and this is really good. You've got that. Then, of course, you've got your maps and everything else. But, it's like, oh, okay. And that's the old BX style. That's the old I wish more of them would do this. Now, like my Alien starter set, fantastic having all that. Or you can buy the RPG, which that book is 400 pages, but a lot of it is more details and stuff like that.
That book is so full of empty space, though.
It is.
That is when I got a hold of my copy and I was looking through it, I'm like, I actually hate this book, and the price of it is ridiculous for how much empty black space there is. It's not. I get they're trying to go for that alien mood, but your page count could have been 2/3 the size.
Yeah, exactly. That one would probably be a good 256 pages. Without losing anything, and I don't disagree with you on that, but the starter set is great. It's like, oh, okay.
Squirrel Hermit does say about don't worry about other rules concerning the other Palladium settings until you play them. Problem solved.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're going to go down a rabbit hole you're never coming out of.
Stay with the core.
Now I see DCC. That's one of those that. The rules are fairly simple, but it'd be nice if they put them all together instead of trying to put some of it's just spread out. And I think
that's just what they were expecting you to do. You understand? That's what Palladium's entire design philosophy appears to be. You thought we were going to do that. Surprise! Because man.
Well,
as we like to say, where are the rules for shields found? Are they in the equipment section? No. Are they in the combat section? No.
edited by M. Night Shyamalan.
This is where the Control F helps, but I think it's ridiculous that you have to use a Control F to find rules. That's with the Palladium. I was trying to look for called shot to get the exact pluses and minuses, and then some of it's kind of vague and like, well, and again, they're supposed to be going back through the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with their Kickstarter and trying to redo a lot of the stuff, which will be great. I'd like to see how well they do that. And we'll see. I'm waiting for that to open up, and I'll go buy a couple of different covers.
So, in general, do you guys prefer a game to be one big book or spread over multiple books? As in a player's book, a DM's book, a monster's book.
I prefer a game to be player's book and DM's guide in one book. I want a rule book. I want a rule book that has it for everybody. I think the optimal presentation of that was Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. You don't need the Investigator's Handbook to play that game ever. You get a lot more options, but you can definitely play that game happily and forever with just the 7th edition Keeper's Guide. So
I'm gonna say this much: is I like it where it's broken apart, where you have the player's book. Now, again, I don't mean the D&D 5th edition. I mean more like this, where it's like, okay, look, you buy one, you only have to buy one thing, but it has enough where you can say, hey, players, you can look at this without them knowing everything. And that's one of the things that they screwed up with, like, perfect examples, Tasha's in 5th edition. What did? They put the DM stuff with the player stuff, and oh, look, all the traps, all of the riddles.
Well, they did that because people don't buy books separately. They had to.
Well, no, I mean, but I'm saying, but that's my point. Is I would prefer if it was split up. Of here are your new player options, and then you do the other one, which is here are your here's the DM options. And I understand that why they did it from a marketing standpoint, but from a dungeon master standpoint, thanks guys. You gave me all the stuff that I could use, and now it's ruined because all my players got the player stuff, and now they can just read right over there.
Well, nothing stops your players from going out and buying the DM's guide either if you have a separate DM's guide. I think that's a trivial point, because if your players are the sort of players who are going to ruin the game for themselves, they're going to do it anyways.
No. But there's a difference if it's in the same book. That's what I'm trying to say. If it's in a different book, they're going to be like, those are the ones that are going to become dungeon masters in the future if they didn't go buy the dungeon masters books. But if it's in the second half, you're just like, well, I'll just flip through it and see what's there. And that's what I'm referring to.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've never seen any player stop because the book wasn't written for the players.
I have seen many players that don't get the other book.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm trying to say. And some of it's cost, and some of it is it just doesn't. It's not that interesting. They want to buy the stuff for their characters, not the stuff that doesn't interest them. The problem is for myself, and I'm probably you're the same, is I got to have them all kind of syndrome, and I got to back away from that.
You mean the paranoia book? You didn't go into the GM section with fear and trepidation because you weren't ultra violent.
Well, again, it's this has two different ones. Only one person needs to buy this, and that's why I want like I know what Eli's talking about, which is if you're going to buy a book, I want something that's complete that I can actually run the game with. I don't want to have to buy multiple books. Well, that's why I like the box sets. It's all self-contained, but only one person has to buy it because now you can just hand the player stuff to everyone else. Oh, yeah, I remember having that old book. But you know what the thing is with paranoia? It doesn't matter if you read in there or not, because the DM, if you're not allowed to tell him to come on any roll,
the DM can do what the hell they like.
Exactly.
I miss box sets.
Yeah.
Fantasy Games Unlimited was awesome for that.
Which one?
Fantasy Games Unlimited. They did the box sets, and there was a lot of that whole, player book, GM books. I missed that.
Yes.
I missed that a lot.
And if you can get 3 standard books, which is part of the reason, like when we were talking with OSC, you know what? Is I can give the players their player books. I can pull out my treasure book in one. I can pull out the monsters. You know, I have that all there if I need it. So I think that helps if you're assuming that only one person is going to buy the game, which is what I assume whenever I get into a new group, is only one person's going to buy the game, and the players will only buy that set after they've been playing for 10 or 15 sessions where they actually like the game. If they don't like the game, then only one person's out the money, not all of them.
Well, so again, I'm talking about what I'm going to do with heroic, but it's relevant to what we're talking about. So I apologize for everybody's like, fuck, I'm sick of Theater and Bear talking about heroic. One of the things I want to do is I'm releasing the first as just a print-on-demand book. But if we get enough of a response, maybe next year we'll look at the costs of, kickstarting or backer getting a box set like the old school days, and like really doing something classic.
Oh yeah, like I said, is the Twilight 2000, the stuff I've gotten from Free League for their box sets are fantastic for getting a game going. It's got everything you need. The players can flip through one without stuff.
I agree with what Mr. Baker says there.
Which was, let's see.
Where? I like with one book or a box set with multiple smaller books.
Yes, exactly.
But a single purchase.
Yeah.
That's what I hate about the WotC model. It's what I hate about the Paizo model. It's what I hate about the Kobold Presses model for Tales of the Valiant. Still, how do you go from having the most awesome game name ever, Black Flag, to Tales of the Valiant? Like, that was a misstep. You got to buy multiple books. I don't want to buy multiple books. I want to buy one book and play the goddamn game.
Well, exactly. And if I want to add other books to it, that's fine, but it's not required to play.
Yeah.
Because that's it.
As Nosorian says here, separate books for separate settings. That's fine. Absolutely fine.
But I mean, if you look at the original Dungeons and Dragons, if you really want to look at it, Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and then you get a setting with that. That's a fair amount of money back then. So it's a fair amount of money now.
I agree with Manfred's point here. Obviously, companies have got to sell books to stay in business. That's part of the business model. And unfortunately, we all know what happened with TSR in the 90s. They produced a lot of books that people didn't end up buying. But yes, there is a point to it. I mean, I like the Xanathar's Guide to My Arse. Yes, that's a fair enough description.
And here's the thing: it's not that I disagree with them having more supplements. I want it to be a quality supplement, and that's the problem. A lot of times is they start going way downhill because they're not selling as much. Some of the first books for 2E I really enjoyed, but then I start looking at the later ones, and they start repeating themselves. They require you to get 6 other books, and you're like, okay, that's just too much. I'm out. Like if you look at Dark Side, you not only do you have to have all of the 3 core books, now you have to have the setting, and then you have to have a couple of the player's handbooks. So
2E, I have a take most people disagree with, and that's fine. The only complete guide book that was needed was the fighter, because he was the most underdeveloped of all the classes. All the other classes had bells and whistles and stuff. That book made the fighter interesting in 2E. We didn't need the complete thief and the complete monk and the complete rogue and the complete this and the complete that and the complete dwarf. And they went nuts with it. You know what I mean? The splat books were insane. I can play 2E with a player's handbook, a DMG, a monstrous compendium, and a complete fighter's handbook and run that game for 20 years.
Same. But I like, as a DM, I like the Complete Thieves book because of all the stuff in there about thieves guilds. But I think that was better as DM facing stuff.
I like the fact they produced it, but then you have to understand, like, after your first book, your sales keep going down. But that's what but actually, that's one of the things I really liked about when we talk about BX. For first edition, not first edition, but your levels 1 through 3, which is we're playing, takes you a while. If you like the game. If you like the game, then you're going to buy the expert set once you hit that cap of 3rd level. It's like, oh, okay, it's time for me to buy the expert set if you want to go up those next levels.
I want to bring our newbie into this conversation. Iman, are you there, or if you wandered off again?
He looks to have gone sideways.
He has gone sideways. Yes. Let us know when you're back, because I want to know what Iman would want to see from a book should he choose to. Here he is. Right.
Apologies, sorry, I got a phone call.
You are new to this hobby. I mean, you've thrown yourself in at the deep end. You've played.
Well,
You played OSC.
you
You
could say
played.
that now, yeah.
You played OSC. You played Call of Cthulhu. You've now played a bit of Palladium. If you were to go out and buy a rule book for these systems, how would you like the game to be introduced to you as a complete newbie?
This is just me, the way I work, but I like having everything all in one book, but in like different sections.
Okay.
Or
how would you like how would you like those sections to be laid out though? How would you like it to start? What was the first thing you'd want to see at the beginning of the book?
A good introduction.
What should be in that introduction?
I don't know how to explain it, but I guess like just a little bit about the world, the people in it, what sort of roles they all have, their interconnectedness, you know, any affinities, yeah, they may have with other races or nations.
So I mean, that's pretty much the opposite of what Bear wants to see at the start of a book. He wants to see that sort of thing at the end of the book. He wants the book to start with.
You trying to make it to the fight? What's this, John?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, trying to start.
Go on. Okay. Yeah. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Okay. You get the first shot. Go ahead.
You'll win. You're a bear, man. I've got no chance. Doesn't matter how intellectual I am.
You think you're smarter than a kick in the nuts? Anyway, but yeah, no, I agree with if it's a setting-based game, then yes, what he said is absolutely there.
Well,
if it's a D&D game where there's going to be multiple settings, I don't need that up front. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But Iman is a newbie. As a newbie, you want information regarding the setting first.
I wouldn't want necessarily my hand to be held, but I definitely would need a bit more like showing around of what's what, if that makes sense.
So going back to what Omanal was saying real quick too, I didn't mind like 2E with the you know, but you were mentioning Dark Sun, for example. Yeah. I mean, that's how you should make a game. So I want the generic fantasy rules and then give me different setting boxes that then tweak those rules, because that's how you build multiple settings with a generic game at the center. You know, Al-Qadim was a good box set. Spelljammer I enjoyed. Planescape we enjoyed.
It you know, and the thing is that you shouldn't feel obligated to buy additional books to run it. You know,
that's the other thing I was going to mention. As a newbie, I wouldn't want to buy like a bunch of different shit just to run one adventure.
So you're not having to buy a bunch of extra stuff well, if you want to run Dark Sun, then you're going to need to buy the Dark Sun setting, because honestly, if not for the Dark Sun box set, the chances of individual DMs ever actually coming up and creating Dark Sun on their own is unlikely. They may have had other Sword and Sandal, Sword and Planet stories that they were playing, but I have always liked to have companies producing different things under that banner, because as creative as I am, I can't think of everything, and I can always pick and choose. The more stuff that's out there, the more stuff I can steal to put in my games. Dark Sun gave us a gladiator class. I used that gladiator class in some games because we had a part of my campaign world called Praetoria, which was a Greco-Roman weirdness, and we had this cool dedicated gladiator class that we could now borrow. So yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with having a core that's solid that you can play without ever having to buy stuff. But then I also don't see a problem with providing setting box sets or setting books, or you know, because
they're basically like,
to be honest, that's how you build a brand without having to throw 8 million splat books out for the core game.
Well, you could basically think of them as like DLC for a game that already exists. It's like an extra little bit.
Tabletop RPGs invented DLC.
Well, no. Yeah. Well, it's true, but I mean, but
G1 through 3 sections of DLC to fight giants.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, for the Dark Sun, it's fine. What you don't want to have to do is buy all of the other books. Like, I liked a lot of the Van Richthofen stuff from Ravenloft. But I noticed as they got further and further out of the books, the quality kept seeming like it was going down after the first couple of books. And that's what I think it's really the problem is I like having more and more supplements to add to the game, but I don't want to feel like I have to buy all the supplements to run the game. And then the supplements I do buy, I want to feel that I'm actually getting something useful, whether it's for ideas, for rules, or however you're going to do it. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to buy a book on nautical sailing. That's great.
I very much prefer a world to be built through the adventures that are written for it. So I'm getting actionable material and playable material as I'm getting new stuff. If you want to give me an adventure that then has a chapter in the back, new spells, new magic items, new rules, that's cool. Or a box set, like a setting box set. But the Von Richten's guides, as they started going on, they became more fluffy and less usable material. And same thing with a lot of those 2E like splat books.
Yeah.
It's like,
what about say hello, Daniel? How you doing?
How are you guys doing tonight?
All right. All right, Daniel.
Good, mate. Thanks. How are you?
Doing okay.
Just one quick question to everybody. Do you like a core rulebook to have an example adventure in it, an example scenario?
I think a short adventure is definitely worth putting in the back of a starting game, even if it's just a whippy dippy little one-shot scenario. Like Cyberpunk usually had some little like go bust up the drug den or get the data thing, kind of adventure in the back of it. Something to give. So if I'm a DM and I've read the book, I can come to my players and say, "Hey, dudes, let's make characters and play this." And they can they can make their characters, and I can just run them through there right then and there.
I'm going to bring. I agree with Eli on this, but I think that what it's supposed to do is give you the feel, and it should be a training module for someone that's new to the system. Is my view on that, which is where I think that the BX did a really good job with having that adventure of B1 or B2 in there. Because
it was a box set with a separate book. An adventure is a separate book in a box set.
Well, that's fine. If you're doing box sets.
Day of the Octopus in Marvel Superheroes. A solid training adventure.
And it doesn't have to be that long either. It doesn't have to be but it should give you enough of an idea, and then it should give you enough plot hooks that you can keep extending it.
I would say, like, if you're dealing with a game where you've got very specific roles, I think having each of those roles have something to do in that sample game. Like if you're going to do a Cyberpunk one, for example, your net runner should have an opportunity to do something in that game.
Yeah,
along with your combat guys.
The other players a chance to go get a drink or buy a pizza or take a walk to the park. Maybe go see a movie while the netrunner's doing his shit.
Using the old Cyberpunk version, sure, but it was never a problem for us actually. But if you're gonna have classes that do different things, like if you're building a D&D one, put in a door with a trap for the thief to try and pick, or disarm. Put in some sort of situation where the one or two spells that that starting wizard might have are useful, something to that effect. You can't do it with everything, especially with games that are much more nebulous in their character classes, say like most Palladium games, where the Palladium fantasy game has 14 different kinds of casters. And I might be exaggerating, but and that's not a gripe, but I mean, you can only put so much into one little sample game.
Well, you know what? We're talking about certain things. Certain games assume that you've been playing other games, which is kind of the way I felt with Palladium in certain cases. Was it's the assumption is you already know how to role play. That said, I get tired when they have all the DM advice in there too. But I'm like, well, I have to think of it. If this is my first game, what would I want to have? And I think sometimes we have to do that because. If there's lore or something that usually sucks you in for whatever it is. I don't care if it's the artwork or the concept or something. Like I knew people that did not ever want to play D&D, but Twilight 2000, oh yeah, let's do that in Recon. Because they wanted to play Modern Warfare. It's like, oh, okay.
A perfect example of an example scenario is The Haunting in Call of Cthulhu. For many people who got Call of Cthulhu, that was their first adventure. It was there in the book, and it was a solid scenario, simple to run, and it showcased the game.
And I think it should be short enough to do like a 3 or 4 hours. So it should be like one session where you can complete it and go through.
That's something that MERP did very badly. The example scenarios that were provided with MERP were ridiculously hard. You could not run first level characters through those. It has to be an introductory adventure. It has to be something that beginning characters can cope with. And the MERP example ones were shocking as far as that's concerned. And I've probably killed the conversation with that.
Well, I was just thinking, I can only speak from my experience or my lack of experience thereof. Like, if I bought one of these books, I would definitely need or possibly strongly want an example just so I know I'm not doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of times I will try getting one adventure for whatever system I'm running just to see on how the designers think you should be playing the game, just so I can understand it. But sometimes it's like the designer, whoever did the module, did not read the rules. In some cases, that's just bad. But you at least get the feel of, okay, what am I going to do this? If I'm going to do an investigator game, oh, this is how you do it. And those introductory modules are both for the players, but they're really for that game master to really learn the rules. Hey, you do this. This is your first combat. This is how it's going to be.
That's definitely. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's definitely what I would need.
That's the fates telling him he's talked too much and it's time to let other people breathe.
Correct, you are Lumin. Absolutely correct. Good example dungeons right in the rule books. Absolutely. General Nut mentions here, Forget Me Not is far from a beginner's scenario to run, and it's far from a beginner's scenario to play and be successful. But it's a great way of introducing people to Call of Cthulhu.
Which one did you say was a good beginner one? The Haunting?
The Haunting, it comes with a lot of the Call of Cthulhu rule books.
Okay.
It's there as a basic starter.
I'm going to mention something about equipment. Good God, have everything with the equipment, and then at least have a description, which is what they got better at. But remember the player's handbook? Most of us had no clue what those pole arms were.
Brother, I didn't know what the hell a block and tackle was. I thought it was for fishing, because a tackle hit, for fishing, obviously.
Can't blame you.
And the block is where I keep my hooks. That seems logical to me. Sure. Then I found that it's like a device for moving stones. I'm like, what the hell? Why would I have this?
But nobody can be prepared for Gygax's pole arm fetish.
G Master G, the Corbett House adventure is the Haunting. That's the one.
Unless you're talking about the other one. The other Corbett.
Oh, yeah.
Who also had a house.
That's Mr. Corbett, yes. That's not
There's another one?
Stormhaven's good for that. Was put out by, I can't remember who. It's a contained adventure, and it was designed for use with Call of Cthulhu, Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes, and Danger International, I think. But each version of whatever game you're using determines how the adventure is going to go, right? So if you're doing Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes or Danger International, there ain't no Cthulhuid stuff. But if you're playing with Call of Cthulhu, there's mythos in there now. And it's really well done. Like, really, really well done. And you can get it pretty cheap on the secondary market, and it's a quality product. Flying Buffalo Game did it.
Even people who like to create their own adventures, with a new system, you will benefit from having an example adventure in there. You will benefit from it. I think even if it's just 3 or 4 pages at the back, just a short example adventure, always good to have.
I think it's better to have it and not use it than someone needs it and they don't have it.
That's a gun, son.
Well, the other part is if this is your first game, it's so much easier. Like Amon was saying, to have it look in the back, like, hey guys, let me run you through our adventure to this one book. It's like, oh, okay, but.
Or in the modern
I'm trying to fade a little bit here. I don't know if I think it's turning into pumpkin hour for me, and I still got a show to do on my channel. I don't know what to do here. I think maybe I should bounce off and grab a nap, but now it's going to fuck me up. Never mind. Soldiering through. Let's go.
Thanks for having me on your channel yesterday, by the way. I appreciate it.
Thanks for stopping by. It was fun.
Are you going to do the Yog mutation into a pumpkin very shortly then?
Sure, I will be a squash.
Butternut squash.
A butternut squash. Well, now you're just talking crazy.
No,
That's
it's
what
real.
we have here. That's what we have here.
No, we have them here
It's
too.
slightly orange.
Yes, we have them here too. I'm just saying. Never mind. I'm not arguing with Brits. It's a waste of time and energy.
Remember,
Good.
this is
I'm glad you
this
learned.
is North America. We can grow everything here.
Isn't squash like
Except for
that
coffee.
game that plays like tennis or something? No.
Except for coffee.
And
Mac,
rice.
that's
We're
why
not
my
going to grind
channel
coffee
exists.
or rice in North America.
No.
Mac, that's why my channel exists. That's why it was first created.
That's right, that's why I'm here. Drag the average age down a bit. I'm joking.
Okay, Grog Nerd.
You're here to drag the average hair quantity up. You and Outback.
But he
The
does
average
help-
amount of weed smoked.
does help the beard quotient go up considerably.
I'm
here to darken things up a bit, guys.
Well, I'm gonna
You're our
mix
DEI hire.
Yeah, literally.
You are woke, Yog. Look at that.
well, it's I'm gonna be the how much room do you want for an example of like combat?
Do you see what happened there? We went off on an entire tangent. We were all having fun, and Omen was just like, "Look, we get back on topic because I have fun."
Omenal's been possessed by the spirit of Saxius.
Saxius has been possessed Omenal.
Let me put my
New
finger
mythical
in the
character.
lights, and I can channel him. No.
Yeah, an example of combat, about a page. Just showing the basics. Showing the basics of how combat is meant to flow.
And if your
Just
combat
like
is
an idea.
fiddly, give me diagrams.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that helps is diagrams. Especially when you start talking about, like you said, with movement and things, it's like, oh, okay.
Angle of attack.
Like, where does the
Example of combat.
backstab come from? Is it 180 degrees or is it directly behind?
What is
what's
my
with
field?
clock?
What is my arc of
Yeah.
fire?
Yeah.
Are there any adventures that actually take shit like that into account?
What, like angle
Like
of fire?
trajectory of arrows and stuff?
Well, I mean, to go into like a 5th edition situation, I mean, I think any adventure, actually, backing up, any adventure takes that into consideration because it all comes down to the players. If you describe a big open temple room that has like a walk around, catwalk area up above amongst the columns above it, I guarantee you your players are going to probably want to get up there to get a good shot at the evil cleric when he decides to address the court, as opposed to just walking up to him on the ground. So having those rules in games, in game mechanics, at least a way to handle them, even if you don't address them specifically. 5th edition, for example, would say you could give the guy advantage because he's up above and he's got a clear angle and there's nothing in the way, and
Okay, yeah.
or a bonus, bonus, +1, +2 to hit, or Call of Cthulhu. Here, take a bonus die.
I'm gonna, if you look at
The air is too full of incense smoke. Take a penalty die.
you laugh at that, but you get that in like Conan, add this or subtract this. But for the alien one, you can do this for an attack, and gives examples of other options you can do besides more damage if you get more successes, which I think is nice. It gives you. I always like for the dungeon master to give ideas of where to go. On just allow you to see how flexible the system is in certain cases. That was one thing I think that 5e has kind of the problem with the DCs. It's all or nothing, rather than saying, "Oh, if you get this, it takes this many rounds. If it does this, this is." It's more of a binary thing than what they're doing it, rather than trying to say, "Hey, guys, there's some nuance in here, and this is how we suggest playing it."
So it's almost like a lack of options or lack of agency.
Well, what I want to say is a lot of times the rules are written mostly for the dungeon master, and it's better to give him ideas on how to do it, so it allows him flexibility. Because if you go and play rules as written, you kind of want to follow that, and especially if it's intimidating. If you're the new dungeon master and the player's been playing for 10 years and know every rule backwards and forwards, you're like, it's like, well, you could do this, or it could mean this. Is okay. If you what's a fantastic success versus a moderate success versus a minimal success,
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other discussion. Like, I like to play with failing forward in my games.
Well, I just meant I like to see those in rules where it gives those things in there. You know, like, oh, okay, how would you do this? I know that you guys don't like the Genesis Star Wars system, but it's kind of nice to get like examples of.
I don't need to decipher hieroglyphics in the middle of a game turn.
Seriously, I don't need, as Curtis says, I don't need to consult the bones.
We
Plus,
tried that
each other.
system. We tried that system a number of times, and I could see the potential in it as somebody who's like a narrative player.
Yeah.
Because we had a situation, for example, where I got 0 successes to my hit, but I got a bunch of advantages, and so
and a critical failure.
No, but
that's what happened to us. We got this thing where it was like, huh?
But so, like in my case, the GM decided, okay, cool. Well, you didn't hit the target, but you did force him out from behind the cover because you got close enough with all those advantages to where you freaked him out. However, that game system only works if everybody at the table is good at that shit. Otherwise, you're rolling a bunch of dice for no fucking reason.
Well, but that's why I said it's nice to have those examples there, so player, so you can go like, oh, okay, it's
yeah, but an example is good, but the whole Genesis system is completely interpretive.
Well, no, I understand that,
yeah.
but that's my point. If it's interpretive, it's better to allow several different versions of the way that it can be interpreted within the role system for that. Otherwise,
how about instead we use interpretive dance to resolve everything instead? Right? I mean, at this point in time, we might as well just fuck. There's games, what's that game? Dread uses
in Jesus' name.
Like for fuck's sake, we don't need kitsch. We need solid game systems.
I know nothing about this Genesis system.
Because here's the problem with those examples, though, Omanel, is that they're all great, but again, they're examples. And so what'll happen probably at least 50% of the time, if not more, is players are just and DMs are just going to go revert to that list of examples. So why not have specific effects or a tighter game mechanic? Because the interpretive element only works if your players and your GM can
do it.
Do it.
Well, no, I know. I understand why you hate it, but it's just funny watching that visual attack come out. I said, no, these are just things that I like to see in systems where it gives, different examples for whatever, for different types of roles. Like, I don't like absolute failure. I don't like absolute success in certain cases. Well, how long does it stay? That's what I'm referring to. It doesn't matter what system it is. I was using DCs.
Yeah. I mean, a tight mechanic, though, for margin of success is easy enough to do without resorting to interpretive dice with symbology. I know you're using that as an example, but like, let's say I'm doing D10.
Elfbait, I want to get paid. I want to get paid. Elfbait.
What am I interpreting?
See Halakar's comment.
Oh.
Our massive mega super chat to see you all interpretive dancing.
All right.
That's what I'm gonna do for the Palladium game moving forward. No more dice, just interpretive dance and puppetry.
Anyway, but keep going.
But I do agree with you that having some sort of die mechanic. Of course, now we're talking systems and not.
No. I'm
but
just saying,
having a die mechanic that allows some sort of nuance in the results is fine.
I mean, however it works out, it's just like I said, the DCs are all or nothing, and that to me is where I said it's it would have been nice to give more examples in between that. It's the same thing like when they talk about, which everyone seems to ignore, and this is the part that comes into it, is the important part of like for 5e, where it says only roll dice where it matters instead of rolling dice as a default. And most of the players seem to all miss that. It's those certain rules should be in the main book that everyone's looking at so that it's there rather than saying, oh, well, we're going to put this in the Dungeon Master's guides and then the other players might miss it. That's what I'm referring to is, all of your core mechanics should be in your main book. And some that I think has to do with the old. Sure.
Who decides if a dice are rolled? The players or the GM?
I agree with you, but the problem was that should be explicitly stated in the book. Is my point.
But
if you roll dice, and guess what? You're just rolling dice for no reason. I'm not counting it. That's it.
Which book should it be stated in, Omanal?
Yeah. What's that?
Which book should that rule be stated in?
Probably should the one that all all people at the table are going to be, which is usually the player's handbook.
Which is the lie of how D&D now does books. It's not a player's handbook. It's a core rule book.
Oh yeah.
That is what the player's handbook has been since AD&D. It's a core rule book. The DM's guide is always alternatives, options, suggestions, things like that. You don't need it to run the game.
Except 1E. 1E was not.
Yeah, because how to roll ability scores wasn't actually covered in the player's handbook.
Okay, but that was just omission as opposed to design.
Well,
I want to get back. I want to get back to one of the comments that's made it because
yeah.
The idea of a declaration phase was mentioned. So I just want to define this before we go back the conversation. Because Tian Tori I don't think she's familiar with it. The old declaration phase was the idea that the players all decided what their characters were going to do before initiative was rolled. Then you would roll initiative. And sometimes what they chose to do would not work because of how things had developed.
Hey, John, did you just see what happened with your...
Holy crap, Aaaah.
Aaaah put in 20 memberships. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I think that it's worth stopping you just to see everything in there.
That's me doing a happy dance.
Oh, wait, hang on. So you're attacking him? I'm trying to figure out what you're doing with this interpretive moment. I apologize. I don't know.
Celebrating.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check the rulebook to see if that's allowed. Hang on.
Yeah.
I do like the declaration phase, but I think that's a holdover from the old wargaming origins of D&D, because in a lot of war games, you declare what you're going to do, and then it's sort of the fog of war is what that reflects. Like, because you may be intending to attack the orc, and so your character's all in for attacking that orc, but then that orc gets killed or something happens. You can't just suddenly change what you were going to do mid-stride, considering those combat rounds were super short or whatever, back in the day.
So now we're going to me swinging a two-handed sword at Omanel's head.
And me catching.
I don't like this game. Can we play something else?
I would like to use my declaration phase to declare Aaaah a fucking legend.
There we go.
Aaaah memberships and still I didn't get one. Oh well.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn that on. I've never got a membership. I've gone through, I've dug in. I just decided to finally say fuck it, because it doesn't really matter. I don't need my name in green.
Oh, you get much more than that. You get a personal yog emoji to use in chat.
Tori, sometimes things could happen that would invalidate your action. Some games had rules whereby you had little penalties if you had to change target, that sort of thing. You had things like spell disruption and that sort of stuff as well. And you took that into account when you were deciding what you did before the initiative roll.
Yeah. One of the versions of that I liked the most was that you rolled initiative first, and then the person who goes first declared last. So they'd listen to everybody else's stuff and then make their move based on what they heard. I thought that was a better way to do it.
Yeah, that's why BattleTech did it.
So the person who rolls initiative first actually acts last.
No, who gets the wins initiative?
Declares last.
Yeah.
So you roll your initiative.
Sorry.
The person who got the lowest initiative declares first what they're doing. And then you go down the line until you get to the person who declared the last. The person who's going to go first declares last what their action is.
Yeah, that's how BattleTech did it, and that's how a lot of game systems that are I go, you go do it too, because going last is a lot of times beneficial because you get to see what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're not wasting a shot on, say, a guy who's dead.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Makes sense, yeah.
But I don't like declaration phases. I'm done with those. Just tell me what you're doing once your turn.
I like OSE's sort of compromise version where you only need to declare if you're moving or casting a spell. Otherwise, you just say what you do.
Yeah, and that's because in the older BX, getting whacked while you're casting a spell ceases you casting the spell, because they had a very simplified way of doing that. So
yes.
And then the you know, for organization, yeah, we're talking like for abilities. Do you want the rules first in there, or do you want them after?
I would say give me ability scores and skills and all of that stuff that I need to generate a character first. So when I get to the rules and I'm reading the rules, I have context. Because if I'm reading the rules and I don't know what strength is, and I don't know what attack rating is, and I don't know what armor defense value is, then it's meaningless. And I'm flipping back and forth between through the book more.
Well, I was just curious if, you know, when it says this is how you attack, this is armor, this is, you know, defense, and all of that, if you prefer having that before the character or not. Because I've seen some of them where they do one, you know, they flip them and things like that. So that's why I was just curious.
Weave it in and then give me a combat section after that just breaks it all down.
Yeah, I mean, if you can explain it organically in a way that you're giving me context while you're explaining it, and then in the combat section bring it all together, that's fine. Like, you know, if you're talking about going back to the example of strength again, if you're going to take a little bit of time to tell me that your strength will have value in determining whether or not you hit and the damage you do when you do, you know, and then later on we see that in action, that's cool. Because then I've got a highlight and I also kind of weaves together more interpretive dance, butterflies, a tree,
spiders.
Truth be told, I have done interpretive dance officially once in my life, and that was when I was that's when I was in preschool. I went to a Nightmare Fuel preschool where they had a giant clown dog head as over the front door, like giant, big as a bus. Clown dog head over the door, and the playground was on the roof, but we were close enough to the University of Washington that they would bring in all sorts of, you know, teaching, you know, students from the school, and we had a drama guy come in once, and we all made interpretive dance, and then we went and performed it at the university. Well, all of us little 4 or 5 year olds.
I'm just liking the idea of being outside your school and watching children fall off the roof at recess.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm pretty sure the 7-foot chain link with the inverted top stopped them.
Children defy logic.
Well, nobody died while I was there.
And that's your story, and you're sticking to it.
I did scare the shit out of the teachers on swim days. Halicar, what?
I interpreted how to walk while greatly intoxicated while I was in college.
I still do that.
Yes.
Hey, Daniel's still here.
Daniel's alive. You're right, Daniel. Mac. Yeah. Dancing full stop requires drink for me. And if I go to a wedding, it usually requires drink, and then for the DJ to put on something like Firestarter by the Prodigy, or anything from that, anything by Madness or the Specials from the late 70s, early 80s. And I'll get up and embarrass my kids.
I enjoyed the Roomba, the run.
Isn't that part of the reason you have kids?
Yes, probably.
Dad, stop.
So I'm going to ask you guys, you know,
What's that? Carry on and do it more. Yes, I will.
We've all talked about OSE, but what other games do you think have really good layouts?
Well, I mean, in general, because I'm not going to compare to OSE, which is just absolutely stellar, but not a lot of them, to be honest.
I would say not a lot of them. I don't mind the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu books. I think they've been done pretty well.
Even still, it's pretty murky.
Yeah, but compared to the earlier versions of Call of Cthulhu, they've done a decent job with this one.
Yeah.
The layouts I've liked have been the ones in the starter sets for Call of Cthulhu, for the One Ring, where they've got concise rule books, concise descriptions, no wordiness whatsoever. There's no room for wordiness, and you've got separate books. You've got a little rule book, you've got a little scenario book, you've got example sheets and things like that. That's the sort of layout I like. So starter sets, One Ring starter set, Call of Cthulhu starter set for me. And nobody else has got any others that they like.
I go through all my memories of the different ones in there. Like, oh, which ones do I like for this? But no, I agree with you on the starter sets. Are usually some of the best layouts for things.
I have not run into many that are actually good. So go ahead, Bear.
Oh, hi. Pathfinder Banner Box 1E. Fantastic layout. Amazing layout. Backing up your statement, John, that starter set.
It's a starter set, though, isn't it? It's a starter set, isn't it? Again.
Yes, John. It's a starter set, John.
Well, if we're going to go there, then I would say like the fifth edition D&D Essentials is actually pretty solid.
To be honest, the 5th edition starter set's decent.
D&D Essentials is even better because
I've never read it.
So D&D Essentials is a $20 box that will let you play for 6 levels and let you make your own characters and gives you a mini campaign. Whereas the starter set doesn't have character generation rules in it for 5th edition, only goes 3 levels. The D&D Essentials box set is very much akin to like the old BX type stuff, in that it gives you enough to play for a good long time.
Now, I'm going to mention something a little bit different, but I know, when we're talking about rules, and I know that Geek will just tune out. Whenever I start seeing spaceship design, I know that probably Eli done a lot of this, where you start, yep, exactly. But one of the first things I think that always comes into it, and this is how I test everything, is when I create it, can I find all the rules that make sense, that don't contradict each other? And that's one of the But I mean, there's one of them I went through and I was reading it. I said, okay, it seems pretty simple. Do it step by step. I'm like, wait a minute, where is this? Where this contradicts this area? And that's more frustrating than anything else. Is like and then give me an example of where you created on your own, and use one of the more complicated ways of doing it, just to say, okay, this is I'm doing it correctly.
I can see we've got a Joker lurking in the back room. We've already got 6 people on Joker, so it's all a bit busy at the moment, and we've only got 25 minutes left. Oh, go on, I'll throw you in as well. Go on.
Hey!
So here's another newcomer. Joker and Iman, similar levels of not experience when it comes to RPGs.
Just call us noobs and be done with it.
Okay, noobs. But if you were buying a rulebook, Joker, what would help you learn a game?
Having teachers like you guys.
There you go.
That's a good shout, actually. Yeah.
The problem with a lot of games is a lot of games do tend to assume that you've got previous experience, or somebody with previous experience showing you what is going on. Certainly both Iman and Joker.
I think it goes with the instruction booklets in general.
That's who's pinging me. What was that? Sorry, Joker?
I mean, instruction booklets in general are some of them are convoluted because they want to get all the information on whatever update they're trying to push forward, and everything gets convoluted. And it's not just D&D, but it's like some board games and whatever else. And some instruction booklets are that convoluted.
They are convoluted, yeah. I mean, certainly in the games I started with, I started with basic D&D back in 1983, and if I hadn't read and digested the Mensa Redbox book, I would not have had a clue when I went straight into AD&D, because AD&D just didn't explain anything. And I would say, I mean, I would say, I mean, 5th edition, the starter set at least explains stuff, but I don't think the 5e core rulebook does a particularly good job of explaining basically how to play.
I'm just going to bounce out, guys, and try and grab a quick nap before my stream because I'm fading, and that's not good. But I'm going to leave the stream running for my channel. So if you're watching from my channel, come on over to this channel. Never mind my channel. But I will see you guys later. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Later. I'm going to mention one thing which most of us probably missed. If you actually read the 1st edition Dungeon Masters guide, it specifically says the player should have no clue what the rules are.
Okay.
That's literally what it says. If you read it, it says the players should not know. Those who actually do should be like, burned at the stake kind of thing. I mean, it's very paranoia for that aspect. And I think sometimes we forget about that is, there's different design methodologies. And his is if you know the rules, you lose the magic of the setting in the game.
I think there's something to be said for that. And General Nut sort of makes the point here as well. New players are as effective or more effective than old players because they often think outside the rules. They don't naturally think with the rules regarding what they can do. I think that's very true. Very, very true.
Definitely for me, because I can't remember what OSE session it was, but I asked John if I could do some stupid shit, and he just went with it.
Well, and to be fair, I prefer that myself. Is the more loose it is. I think sometimes when we talk about rule books, is you need to say, hey, this is open for interpretation. Not every rule is going to be in there, which I think sometimes you have to put that disclaimer, make decisions and understand that. But the other part is you've seen advanced, players have been playing for so long and they always optimize the action, which doesn't, this is how I can get the most damage if I do this and then I do that and then I do this. And it doesn't make for a better game. At the end of the day, we're playing a game to have fun.
Absolutely.
In the end, though, those people have been trained by the DMs and the GMs that they're playing with, though. Because if that gets you through all the time, then that says something about the games they've been playing. People who play in my games, aren't always, and I'm not bragging. It's just like I run games that are like very. I hate it. It's a word that gets said so much that it almost stops meaning. Verisimilitude. There's a lot of it in my campaigns, and so if you want to do something that is creative and interesting, I'm gonna come up with a way for you to do it. I mean, unless it's impossible. I want to press my face through that stone wall. Let me roll. No.
But I mean. But
make a strength check. Okay, you crush your skull.
But it needs to be encouraged in the rule books when it says that. I know that that's the rule of cool and stuff like that is do not feel limited just because there isn't a rule for something. This is not a computer game. That's the whole reason I play, tabletop RPGs is that I'm allowed to go outside of the confines of whatever's there.
Whenever I teach new players to play a game, which I got to do a lot of when I had all the teenagers around, I always they're like, well, what do I do? I'm like, don't worry about the rolls. Don't worry about the dice. You tell me tell me what your character is doing.
Absolutely.
Just tell me what you want to do and I'll tell you what you need to roll if you need to roll something. So the place I start every time. I mean, it's different for war games, obviously, but for role-playing games where you have infinite freedom to do whatever, I really want you to tell me what your character is doing. Get into it. Get descriptive. That's why my wife's freaking monkey goblin ended up being the living grappling hook in our party, because they found out that it was a lot easier with her skills for them to chuck her with a rope attached to her belt over a chasm and with her extra climbiness and have her secure it than to actually try to do a skill check to throw a grappling hook. So the monkey goblin became the living grappling hook. Is that something that's in the rules? No. Is it something I let them do? Yes. Did I even let them start to contemplate putting a mini catapult on the back of the orc in the party? Yes.
I mean, similar to that. I mean, my group of players they played a bit of 5e, but when I introduced them to AD&D, they'd got one magic dagger between them when they encountered a gargoyle, and thus they were struggling because gargoyle can only be hit with magic weapons. something I never ever thought of when I was playing when I was in my teens was what happens if you lasso a gargoyle?
Well, didn't we do that when we were playing the
gonna carry you
OSC
into the
game
air.
with that one demon? Remember we
Yeah.
did that with
Yeah.
with Angus. Angus, you go out there. We only have one magic item, and you go through, and with your protection from evil.
Yeah, you threw me to the wolves.
I grew up with enough Sinbad movies to know if you lasso the flying critter, that it's going to carry you off into the air. So,
Well, I think that when we talk about the rules in there, sometimes, and I'm going to mention this, is we will get autistically OCD kind of things, but it says this, and you're like, yeah, but that rule doesn't make sense in this case. And sometimes people, to be fair, we all play different things. Sometimes it's, can I outsmart the rules, which is what you find with some people doing video games. How can we, how can we break the system instead of going, and that's where you need the GM to go, I'll let you break the system this one time, but after this, no more. You have to have some of that. But I think that sometimes why you
that
need
lines
to
up with a comment made by Jay Richter. And yes, I mean, Alpet, yeah, you're right. Those players are as old as time, but there are people who literally have their channels on YouTube designed around that sort of thing.
yeah. But I want to. I mean, this is not a new phenomenon, though. That's kind of what it's pointing out, because we all knew that guy back in the day who every one of his characters was kitted out almost identically. He always had the same stuff. He was always optimized. If I'm playing a fighter, this is what I'm doing. But I mean, talking about player choices. I mean, if I don't, Yog, you caught some of the stream on Monday, but those players were presented with a situation where they could have just fought their way through. But they're playing OSE, so that's one thing. You don't want to start a fight. But they bluffed and role played their way out of the situation. They embarrassed the crap out of that one pirate, and made him look like a fool in front of his group, to where this group reined him in rather than having to do it themselves, because they didn't want to start a fight. Although I gotta say, just an aside, when I threw that mammoth at them, do you know a mammoth in OSE is actually tougher than the dragon in OSE? No. It's 15 hit dice.
I haven't got to that bit yet.
Well, I think part of it is when we're looking at some things, is the old dungeon, the old Dungeons and Dragons tend to be smaller than what you'll see in a lot of at least for the BX stuff.
Yeah, because they're all like young dragons and stuff you're supposed to be running into. By the way, I don't know if you have it, you run OSE. There is actually a BX monster matrix that takes all the AD&D monsters and converts it over to an OSE monster matrix.
I didn't know that. No,
I will send it your way. And it does it in the old like gray and white table format, like you had in the middle of the old DMG. Or the end of the DMG where you had the monster matrix. Yeah, it's really useful because it has like like BX has no demons.
I'm gonna mention one thing that Eli is talking about for that is there is a Dark Sun also OSE that someone has done and written all of their documents to convert. And really, while we're talking about systems and rule books, once you get enough, it's going through. It's like, I like reading systems just to see what cool mechanics they put in. But as time goes on, I enjoy simple systems, but I do like to see how certain things do it.
It's kind of why I've gone back to OSE, because while I enjoy playing 5th edition at times, it can be frustrating in other ways. And sorry, I'm having to talk while I look away from the screen,
But I mean, that's what a lot of it comes down to, and I think we all go through this cycle. I don't know about for John, is where we go from we want more and more realistic, and then as I get older, I'm like, I don't want to have to remember all these rules, and I start coming back over to it.
Do you want Phoenix Command? Because that's how you get Phoenix Command.
It's like, hey guys, we need to do this, and like Traveler's actually a really simple system. It's all the other stuff if you want to look at stuff that has nothing to do with the game. It's just to make the world realistic. That's where your math comes into it. You know, how
I just
far is it
wanna-
away from this? How far away is it from that? And it's not really necessary for the game at all.
I just want to bring this up from T and Tori. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but this is the sort of thing I try and shoot down as soon as possible. My general approach is if there is someone who plays that way in the group, I'll often say before the game even begins, if you're not sure about whether something is within the spirit of the rules, talk to me first.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody searching through the books to find ways of breaking the game.
And if you notice for us is you know, when we have you know, what is it, Ink Splat Records, you know, Gene, you know, whenever he's coming in, hey, you know, you Ginger Beer, we all like get together. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's a cooperative experience rather than a combative experience, which is what I grew up as a kid being you know, I hate saying this. I was a rules lawyer. I would argue for hours, and to be honest, it doesn't make the game any more fun. It doesn't make it any better. And it's just like we're just wasting time when we could actually play the damn game. You know?
I do miss having my one player in my group who was self-titled rules lawyer for good.
Yes,
like he was there as a rules encyclopedia, not a rules lawyer.
That's fine.
And because in the middle of a game I'd be like, Derek, how does this work? You know, like,
well, exactly. But that's different. You're trying to help people out.
yeah.
You're not trying to say, "Hey, I'm going to min-max the system so I can get one over on the DM."
Well, I mean, he was good at that too. But I mean, he couldn't help it because he's in the Saxious spreadsheet team. In fact, those two should become pen pals. But
well, you know, the other part is as a person that did a lot of the rules lawyering, I can tell as soon as someone's doing it's like, stop, no. That's not you're not going to use the rules when it doesn't make sense against something. They're like, you know, but you have to stop that early. That's the problem. Is once you allow it for several times, then it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, one of the worst things that can ever happen to you is when you let somebody actually go by the rules and push their luck, and they luck out. Then they keep thinking that they can luck out forever. One of my bonus kids is I remember her thief in poking around the captain's quarters on a ship, and they're low level, and she keeps passing her stealth checks because we're playing 5e. She keeps doing stealth checks as she's poking around, and she's going like, and I'm getting into the drawer, and I'm looking through there, and I'm like, okay, you find a bag of gold. Okay, I'm taking that. Make a stealth check. Just a minute. She does 9 stealth checks in a row, passes them, and it's on the way out that she finally fails one. Wakes up the pirate captain. He's like, hey, what? And she whips around and shoots with her hand crossbow, gets a crit, and kills the captain. That is not part of their mission. They're just like, but for the rest of the campaign, she's just like always wanting to push her luck because she had 9 rolls in a row that went her way, even with disadvantage.
I mean, yes, they are a minority, but all it takes is one at the table. All it takes is just having one of them at the table, and everything can grind to a halt.
Well, and that's just it. It's, you know, it's like, well, what do we do? You know, and at a certain point, it's like, look, I just want to play. If I wanted to be the rules lawyer, then I'd be the DM. You know, that's what it really comes down to, and that's how you become the forever DM. Like, oh, okay.
One of the best bits about the MERP game I'm running is so few of the players know anything about the rules of the game. So it really doesn't matter what I do. I can butcher and adapt them as much as I like. And the people who do know the rules, thankfully, are those who know what MERP is like and let it go as freely as possible. But more than half the group don't know anything about the rules, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I was joking with Shadow and Son about, hey, watch me create a monk that can do over 1,300 points of damage in a round in first edition. And then the very first thing was, well, that's okay. I said, I'm not playing that because it won't make the game fun for me, you, or anyone else. You know, that's what people forget about is, you know, just because you can get all the advantages the disadvantages are what actually make the stuff fun when you have to go around those. It's not, you know, it's those criticals and those critical failures that actually make the game fun. It's not just the fact you hit. or you miss. Yeah.
I'd say Duralumin's probably the only one at the table who really knows the rules.
Okay.
Others might know bits and pieces, but
You know, and I hate saying it because I'm getting older. I'm like, you just tell me what my rules are, what I have to roll. They're like, well, you should know all the rules. I just don't care. No, it's different if I'm supposed to know spells or things like that. But
I've got
yeah.
so many versions of the rules bouncing around in my head anyways, and we even back in the day we never played with all of them and we mashed things up, and I'm on record as having pretty free access to Dragon magazine, so my D&D was super customized and tweaked and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't even pretend. I mean, I know most of the rules and I know enough of them to make the game go. And honestly, nobody's complained yet. So
exactly, you know, it's you know, you're like, okay, we'll just have fun. Well, I still like whatever we do with Gingerbeard, and he has to sit there for like a minute or two figuring out how to adjudicate whatever we're going to do. All right, and we're not playing the rules. It's just like, yeah, we'll do this. What do we have to do? And he's like, let me think about that. So like, oh, okay, but we're not. I don't think that we're playing with rules. We're just like, hey, Gingerbeard, we want to do this. What?
Yeah.
You know, how are you going to adjudicate that?
One thing that does help with those sort of Saturday sessions is we are very laid back. There's no real time pressure. There's no real sort of pushing, hurrying people up. It's just a chill game. It's just
that's what makes it so much fun. You can drop in, you can drop out. Well, are we going to do this? Are we not? And that's that. You know what is, if I miss a week, I don't feel guilty. I can go do something with my son, or hey, I can go travel, or like, oh, you know what, I'll come in this week. You know, that was makes. And I think, to be honest, I think that's how Gygax played, because he had that gaming. When I say gaming group, we're talking what, 50 or 60 players all out there. And they came in that one night, and if they either they were there or they weren't, and they were expected to be in and out of the dungeon before the end. Otherwise, the real time still occurred while they were there.
Actually, wasn't it that they just were out of the dungeon? Period. Like at the end of the night, at the end of the session, you were just out. Like the session went to the end of the I can't remember. But
I'm not sure if that's true. I just know that if you were stuck in the dungeon and then they would start counting as real time, that's a good way for all your characters to die. So I think that when they start looking at the time, like, let's get out. And even Gygax broke his own rules. He even said it in the book, which is so funny.
Well, yeah, the problem with him is he was so contradictory too, because at one point in his career, he's talking this, and then in Dragon magazine articles and letters, he would say different things. He seemed to very much say whatever he wanted to say at the moment, given his mood.
I think there's a difference when you're a game designer and you want people to have fun with your game, and when you're a head of a company and you want to make money. That's where I noticed that's where he came in.
I got the feeling to it with a lot of it, though. His mood shifted based on what kind of annoyance factor he had with the kind of things that were happening. Like, and that's just part of being a public figure too. I mean, I have to imagine at a certain point, he just absolutely became numb to people wanting to tell him about their campaign and their character. Because I know I was, when I hung out in game stores, I'm like, that's why I had to put the 2 hyphen rule in. I'm like, man, if your mashup has more than 1 hyphen for your campaign, I don't care. I don't care anyways, but at least I'll give you a list.
Well, I mean, when he went in and said, you're not playing D&D, that whole, it was just, you're just like, dude, instead of saying, hey guys, that's not what we're using for conventions, that would be a much easier way of doing it, but that's not what he did. And you can tell that dripping sarcasm, and just like, oh, you're contradicting what you said exactly in your printed rule book.
It would be a good way to finish the stream with by quoting that bit.
Yes.
The afterword. I don't have my DM's guide to hand. It's tucked under my bed, unfortunately. But yes, there is that
on
bit
the other shelf, and I can't get it.
Okay, wait a minute. I will pull it up here in just a second.
Because we are going to have to finish the stream any second now, because we have hit pumpkin hour.
Okay.
Nope, you can stay up.
Well, it's his wife that will give the afterword. It is the spirit of the game, not the letter of the rules, which is important. Never hold to the letter written, nor allow some barracks room lawyer to force quotations from the rulebook upon you. If it goes against the obvious intent of the game, as you hew the line with respect to conformity to major systems and uniformity of play in general, also be certain the game is mastered by you and not by your players, within the broad parameters given in the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons volumes. You are creator and final arbiter by ordering things as they should be, the game as a whole first, your campaign next, and your participants thereafter. You will be playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons as it was meant to be. May you find as much pleasure in doing so as the rest of us do. There you go.
And I think that passage should be in every single rule book.
Exactly.
For every game ever, because it's right. It's absolutely right. And on that note, I'm going to bring this stream to an end, but not until Elfbait, Shillage.
I have a YouTube channel. It does things. I have a Discord too. It's attached to that. I even have a new streamed campaign, By the Sword, a classic sword and sorcery, savage sword and sorcery game played with the OSE rules. We had our first session on Monday. It's going to be every 2 weeks. That way I'm not burning everybody out. Starts at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can figure that out for wherever on the planet you are. But no, first session was good. And we'll keep going.
We've had some good feedback from that. I mean, I look forward to watching the rest of it tomorrow.
Cool.
Tomorrow's my quiet day at work. Iman, Shillage.
Hi. So just echoing what Eli said, I have a YouTube channel that does stuff. If you search my name, you'll find it.
Joker, Omanal, and Guns Are Cool don't have YouTube channels.
Oh no, Joker does. He does now, sort of.
Oh, he does. I don't know.
He sort of just started it one. He started one up like a few days ago. Yeah.
I have to have a look.
Wait. Can I shill for John here? Which is go to his Discord channel and you can play Merp and Call of Cthulhu and OSE, as appropriate. and he posts the events. So
still haven't figured out how he can run so many games, but
he's not. Gingerbeard's running one. He doesn't even have to show up to a lot of it.
Yeah, but he still runs a lot of.
That you get to listen to him wait on customers in the morning.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, one of the games, yes. I do. I probably run more games than is good for my health on Discord, but I managed to do that because I make a lot of it up as I go along.
Yeah.
I mean, never let people into the big secret that 90% of DMing is bullshit.
Correct. Yes.
I've experimented with that on purpose. I've intentionally gone into sessions deciding that I wasn't going to prep for anything and just winged it, and my players never knew. So,
and to be fair, a lot of times as players, we don't care that much as long as you're running the game. You don't have to be perfect because we don't want to have to run it. So. Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone who's been in chat tonight, especially to Halakar for that. The 20 memberships. That's fantastic as always. Thank you for your contributions. Also, thank you to Saxius, who was with us earlier, and Bear, who had to go for a nap. Bear has multiple channels, so sub to him as well. Check out the live play we've been doing. I know Elfbait's got his live play, which I will be watching tomorrow. I watched the first 45 minutes and it was good. I myself and Iman played in Bear's Palladium live play. It was the first time Bear played it. First time I'd ever played in a live play. First time Iman had ever played in a live play. First time a lot of us.
Yeah, for once we were kind of on a similar page.
We were, yeah. And it was really good. It was really, really good. We've had some really good feedback from it. Looking forward to that. We're going to play it once a month. Looking forward to the next one. It was great. But if you would like to join in the games, as has already been said, I've got a number of events happening on my Discord channel. Most of them. Oh, Hungar was in earlier as well, wasn't he? Hungar's got a channel. Check out Hungar for Ultimate Chaos. Hungar was in the live play with Bear as well. What are we playing Friday? I don't know yet. I haven't decided. If I can find Death Trap Dungeon, I haven't been up into my loft yet to find Death Trap Dungeon. I need to. But not all of my games have got empty slots, to be honest, at the moment. But certainly the OSE one is designed to be a drop in and drop out once if you fancy playing some OSE on a Saturday. Everybody.
And John, just for Halakar here, you know.
I've just put an invite link for your Discord in the chat if people aren't already part of it.
Oh yes. Oh, there's Joker's channel as well. So Joker's set up a channel. I'll have to see what you're up to. I didn't know you.
I mean, nothing's going to start till next week when there's a certain DC game coming out on the 2nd.
Oh right, okay.
Hi, sorry, I'm back.
Is it comics that you're dealing with mostly?
No, it's the Suicide Killed the Justice League game that's coming out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if you guys heard me. I put a Discord link in your chat for the people who aren't part of it yet.
Yeah, we heard you. We just ignored you.
No, my fucking Wi-Fi cut out, so I didn't hear anything.
It doesn't let you post links, Iman.
Or does it not? Has it been banned?
I've got links blocked because of porn links and things like
that.
No.
I thought that you could post links if you were the channel owner or the.
Oh.
You can. That's why I private message. That's why I private message mine.
Private message me the link, Iman, and I'll send it out because I can't find my link quickly at the moment.
Yeah. I think what is the mods and the creator can put post links.
I'm crap at getting my link. There we
go. Don't say that too loudly.
So, if you're not already in the Discord and you feel like joining, there you go. There's the Discord. But on that note, sorry, RPGXOs, yes, 3 hours late because I'm a Brit. Our clocks are a little bit earlier than yours. It's just gone midnight. It's 9 minutes past midnight here, and I do have to go to bed. So
have a good night, guys.
Good night,
cheers.
folks.
Thank you all for joining. And
is he in Greenland if he's only 3 hours behind you?
It's 3 hours. Well, it's 3 hours. The stream's been on for 3 hours, hasn't it? So,
okay.
Anyhow, cheers all, and I'll see you. Those who are going to be there for the stream on Friday. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Right.